Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku had improved version of AFO Quirk Part 2. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see part 3, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story lucarioacero from Wattpad. So let's start the video. UA High School. Next day, Izuku sat in his seat right on time while relaxing and just enjoying the morning. He was thinking on what would happen today and got into the mood of rolling with the punches. He could feel Izumi and her friend group all looking at him with what he guessed were sad or regretful gazes. Though he honestly couldn't care less, he did still think about what they had said yesterday. I can't believe that they'd try and marry me to 2 girls, the very same that tormented me no less. Shoka I can believe since I said I had a crush on her, but Katsumi was probably either crushing on me before, or just tricking herself into loving me out of guilt. Either way, they won't get to me. Izuku thought to himself, slightly angry at how his parents had tried to force him to marry people he specifically said he hated. Izuku, how can I make you fall in love with me again? Shoka thought to herself desperately. Izuku, I love you, and I always will. I'll show you I love you today, and then you, me, and Shoka will be together. Katsumi thought determined. Brother, who is Eri? I won't let her replace me. Izumi thought to herself, determined to make her big brother see her as his sister again. Brother, I'll make you marry my sister, whether you like it or not. Shoto and Katsuki thought while thinking about how to make him do so. Izuku felt danger sense spiked and could tell it was coming from Katsuki and Shoto, though he paid it no mind. Nobody was able to step up to him yet unless multiple top heroes teamed up. He was certain he could fight all of his tormentors and all might, Inko and Endeavor, and come out victorious, since he had counters to all of their quirks along with natural resistances towards all of them. He was certain that with his training and intellect, he'd be more than capable of fighting the top heroes of the earth and still winning. The only problem, though, is the level of training and experience that differs from him and them. Izuku has been fighting criminals since he was 10 years old. He has a naturally high reaction time and physical fitness. He has keen intellect and knowledge, and he can remain calm and collected under the hardest situations. He was trained by 4 former pro heroes, and was professionally trained in both hand-to-hand and swordsmanship-based combat by over 5 teachers. He had skill, experience, talent, and power, and he used them in the right way. By looking at Izumi's fighting spirit, he could tell that her quirk wasn't fully trained, and her body hasn't fully built up a resistance to her quirk yet. Katsuki had to work on both his skill and versatility with using his quirk, since he could tell from his spirit that he lacked control and ways of using his quirk. Shoto needed more creativity in his combat style, and his fire side was completely neglected. Though Izuku guessed that it was caused by having memories of burning him and being disgusted with that side, which is incredibly unhealthy. From what he could gather on Katsumi, her skill and strength with her quirk surpassed her brother, and all she needed was to fully control and deal with her quirk's drawbacks and power. Shoka had more control over her ice than her brother did, but she too neglected her fire side, which, again, is unhealthy. She also needed more work with her body's fitness, since she was athletic, just not enough as she could be. Izuku knew that All Might was weaker the second he saw him in that skinny form, and from his spirit, he could probably knock him out after landing a well-timed punch to his jaw. He outsped him easily with his teleportation quirk and naturally fast body, and all he'd need to do is get past his guard to deliver the winning blow. Izuku still trained heavily in his swordsmanship and hand-to-hand combat, and recently he's been trying to fully perfect his combat style. He created an incredibly deadly fighting style, but it took 6 years to create and even more to MSTR. After a few minutes of waiting, Aizawa walked in, still tired from lack of sleep, and stood at the front desk. Today, we will have 2 special teachers to carry out the lesson, so all of you be prepared and listen well. Aizawa said before getting into his sleeping bag before rolling out of the room. Izuku sighed, already knowing exactly who Aizawa was talking about. Izuku just relaxed and listened to his new friends, Ijiro and Mina, talk about things. Izuku hated to admit it, but Ijiro and Mina grew on him really quickly. After just relaxing for about a full minute, while ignoring the stares coming from his former sister and her friends, Izuku sensed two people that he recognized coming to the door. Suddenly, the door opened and in came the number 1 and number 3 heroes, All Might and Green Tornado. Wow, we have heroes like All Might and Green Tornado teaching. This is the best. Kaminari said as a chorus of compliments and comments came from the students, with the exception of Izuku. Yes, indeed, future heroes. Grab the suitcase that is assigned with your seat number and head to Test City B. All Might yelled while 𝗃𝗀 pushed a button on a small device in her hand as suitcases appeared behind the chalkboard of the classroom. Most of the students funneled out of the classroom in a hurry while grabbing their suitcases. Izuku stayed behind simply because he wanted to teleport to the city, but stopped himself as 𝗃𝗀 and All Might stood in front of him with a suitcase. Shimura, we noticed that you didn't put in a hero costume design. So, me and your dad found your costume design from your old hero notebooks. We managed to register it for your costume, that way you don't have to use your fake costume as disaster. 𝗃𝗀 said with All Might nodding. Izuku grabbed the suitcase before using Divine Flame to burn it right in front of them. He made sure it was fully burned to ashes before he dropped what used to be the suitcase. He looked up to see the hurt and crying 𝗃𝗀 and the pained look on All Might. Neither of you are my parents anymore, so don't call yourselves my mother and father. And another thing, my costume as disaster is my real hero costume, not a fake. If you two are done trying to be my fake parents, then quit wasting my time. Izuku spoke before teleporting to the test city. 𝗃𝗀 dropped to her knees while crying and hiccuping as All Might hugged her from behind, trying to offer emotional support. It's okay, we'll get him back in time. He'll come back to us and he'll apologize for everything. All Might said reassuringly. 𝗃𝗀 just sniffled as she hugged her husband back. At Test City B, 5 minutes later all of Class 1A was at the test city while wearing their individual hero costumes. Izuku still wore his hero costume as disaster, causing everybody to recognize him as that hero. Most of the class was wondering why a pro hero was in their class, but decided to ask about it later. They knew he was a pro hero because they have all seen him on the news for the past 2 months. Katsumi wore black combat with a green utility belt along with orange boots and a silver knee guard. She also wore a black and orange tank top with a white neck protector, and a black and orange mask that covered her eyes and served as a ponytail clip that resembled an explosion. The most notable part of her costume was green gauntlets that resembled grenades. Art isn't mine. Shoka wore a high-collared blue tracksuit with a white vest that covered her chest and back. She wore a light tan utility belt and white boots. On her wrists were leather straps with metal canisters, made to heat her body up in order to deal with the drawbacks of her quirk. Though, she originally planned on making them both heat and cool her body, but she changed it since her vow to never use her fire side. Katsuki and Shoto wore seemingly male versions of their sisters' costumes with little differences or changes. Izumi wore a dark green tracksuit with black lines here and there, and a red utility belt. She had a yellow hair ribbon that resembled All Might's signature hair. She wore red boots that with black knee guards, and her most noticeable attribute, her metal respirator that served to filter out air to better help her fight in conditions without safe oxygen. Izumi's group was looking at Izuku and all of them were saddened when he still wore Disaster's hero costume, and not the one that All Might and 𝗃𝗀 specifically made. It seemed that he had completely given up on his old hero dream now that he became one. They also saw that 𝗃𝗀 had slightly redder eyes than before and was looking at Izuku with a saddened look along with All Might. They wondered what exactly happened, but chose to ask about it later. Katsuki and Shoto were angry though since Izuku made their aunt and his own mother cry. Alright future heroes, today, we shall be doing indoor combat training. We shall decide teams by drawing lots, though one team will be just one person going against 2 people. Any volunteers? All Might explained before asking. I'll go on my own, Izuku said as all eyes turned to him. Since I have my hero license and has been training since I was 10, it's safe to say that I outclass everyone in my class. Izuku explained as most of the class was hurt and slightly offended by his comment before realizing that he did have a point. Sir, if I may ask, why are we drawing from lots instead of picking out partners? Ida asked while chopping the air robotically. As a hero who teams up, most of the time it is on the spot. As in, you team up with whoever else is on site and you don't get to choose who that is 90% of the time. This will give us a better chance at being heroes that can actually cooperate. Izuku explained as Ida accepted the reasoning before bowing. All right then, let's draw the lots. Inko yelled, though most of the class wondered why she sounded slightly unenthusiastic about it. Everyone aside from Izuku went up and drew the lots. The teams were Team A, Katsuki and Shoto Team B, Tenya and Ochako Team C, Shoka and Izumi Team E, Minoru and Momo Team F, Mina and Ijiro Team G, Denki and Jiro Team H, Mashireo and Tora Team I, Tsuyu and 𝗵𝗃𝗃 Team J, Katsumi and Kuji Team K, Yuga and Shoji. Alright, the first match will be Izuku versus Team A. I'll flip a coin to decide who is villain and who is hero. Inko said as she had finished drawing how the teams would fight. She flipped the coin before it landed on heads. Shimura, you shall be the hero while Team A is the villain. Team A, you have 5 minutes to prepare and set up the fake bomb. Inko said while keeping her tone at a professional and teacher-like tone. Katsuki and Shoto nodded while moving to the building they were supposed to be in. As they were walking, Katsuki spoke up angrily. I can't believe the DMN nerd would make Auntie cry. I get it that he's mad and all, but he took it too far. We gotta force him to apologize. Katsuki screamed his head off. Shoto remained having an emotionless face, but he had an angry look in his eyes. I agree, but how can we force someone stronger than us? Shoto asked. Katsuki turned to him before glaring slightly at the ground, not coming with an answer. After a few seconds, he looked up again with a smirk. That pressure we felt yesterday was probably just a quirk that he copied. It doesn't matter how many quirks somebody has, but only about how much you have a mastery over one. We were trained by 2 of the top heroes in Japan and arguably the world. We can definitely handle Izuku. Katsuki said, coming up with something that made sense to both him and Shoto. Izuku of course knew exactly what they said since he could still hear them clearly as can be and merely scoffed at Katsuki being right. It didn't matter if you had more than one quirk, only that you had just one. That was the main point of Izuku's training over the past 6 years, mastery over all of his quirks. Izuku entered the building after the 5 minutes and already knew where they were, on the 4th floor in the center. After using Fly, he created a hole in the building on the 5th floor using his divine flames. It melted clear through the building and he quickly made sure to cool it off with his heavenly ice. After he did that, he made his way to directly above where Katsuki and Shoto were, and created a standard katana before coating it in armament and lightning. Izuku then cut the ceiling apart and took both of them by surprise and landed right behind both of them. Shall we get this over with? Izuku said with a coldness to both his voice and tone, but also his posture. Damn it, brother. Apologize to your mother. I know that she neglected you, but we've all more than made up for what we did to you. Katsuki yelled at him after getting over his shock. Shoto was the next to recover from the shock. I get that you're mad at us, but we've all suffered from your disappearance. If you come back home with all of us, then we can all go back to when we were all wanting to be heroes. We can all go back to that happy time. Shoto said and shouted at him. Izuku merely glared at both of them before his hair shadowed his eyes and speaking even colder than before. Those happy times weren't even real. They were a mere illusion. I suffered for 6 years by people that were supposed to give me attention and love, and all I got was coldness, unfamiliarity, and being treated as a stranger. Inko forgot all about me, and All Might was never even my biological father. Let me be clear. Izuku said before looking up at both of them, showing his eyes that were now glowing a radioactive green. None of you mean anything to me, just a mere annoyance. Izuku said before he rushed toward Shoto. Shoto was barely able to handle the assault. He barely blocked the first punch and if still hurt like hell. He didn't even see the next punch come and embed itself into his stomach, knocking the air out of him and making him couch up saliva. Katsuki reacted semi-quickly and tried to release an explosion at Izuku's torso, but Izuku caught his hand and used armament to block the explosion, even though he probably didn't need it. Izuku delivered a roundhouse kick to Katsuki's face that sent him flying and hitting the wall, and he was going to fight him until danger sense and his hearing picked up on ice being formed. Izuku dodged to the left and looked to see Shoto on the floor with his left hand on the ground with a pained look on his face. Izuku just responded by cutting the ice and burning it away using his sword and divine flames. He went up and stomped on Shoto's head and knocking him out and pushing his head into the ground. "Don't do it, Katsuki," All Might said over the speakers as Izuku turned to see Katsuki holding his palm towards him and having his hand on the pin of his hand grenade. Izuku smirked at him, which Katsuki off into pulling the pin. An eruption of flames left his palm and barreled towards Izuku at intense speeds and great intensity. Izuku looked and saw that if he dodged then Shoto would likely get hit, so he used his divine flames and armament to create his perfect defense. Right before the flames reached Izuku, a wall of black flames sprouted from the ground in front of Izuku. It took the shape of a skeletal ribcage with a glowing black aura, and it completely took Katsuki by surprise. It withstood his explosion without any problem, and Izuku didn't have a single scratch on him. Izuku immediately teleported to Katsuki and finished the fight with an uppercut straight to his chin. You may ask when he put a teleportation mark on Katsuki. When he first roundhouse kicked him into the wall, he made a mark on his torso. Hero team wins. All Might said as Izuku nodded before picking up both Katsuki and Shoto before teleporting them to Recover Girl's office. He teleported back to the observation room and was met with the looks of his classmates that varied from expressions of shock, sadness, to even awe. "Bro, you are so manly," Ijiro said excitedly, most of the class agreeing with him. "I assume that you took the two of them to the nurse," All Might said as Izuku merely nodded, causing Katsumi and Shoka to let out a breath of relief. "Who was the MVP of the match?" Inko asked while looking slightly proudly at Izuku, though it went away after he glared at her. It was Shimura. He displayed multiple abilities with his quirk and knew exactly how to use them flawlessly. He also minimized the injuries done onto both Todoroki and the building. He also handled the situation perfectly and calmly. Momo said, which Inko nodded towards her. "If I'm not needed to participate again, then I'm going home," Izuku said as he turned to head out the door. "Wait a second, so Shimura. You may learn a thing or two if you watch the rest of your classmates participate," All Might said while trying to have more time around his son. Inko agreed while Izumi, Katsumi, and Shoka all just wanted to be around Izuku some more. "No offense, but there is nothing I can learn from these matches. Besides, my little sister is waiting for me," Izuku replied before teleporting out. Izumi was heartbroken and depressed at the blatant disregard her own brother seemed to think of her. Hell, Izuku didn't think of her at all. Inko and All Might were thinking about this airy person that Izuku considers family and were thinking different ways about what to do with her. "Maybe I can use her to get Izuku to forgive us. After that though, I guess we can adopt her, though she won't be my favorite like Izuku is," Inko thought to herself, mostly on how to make Eri love her and talk sense into Izuku. That Eri is not Izuku's sister. He only has Izumi as his sister, and Katsuki and Shoto as his brothers. "If I find this little brat, I'll force her to leave Izuku," All Might thought angrily at Eri. "Not gonna lie, I actually got mad writing this." With Izuku after teleporting back into his apartment, Izuku hung out with Eri and took her to school, which was about 5 minutes till the first bell. Luckily, he had a teleportation mark at the school and dropped her off to learn, though not without a kiss on her forehead. After that, Izuku teleported around the city and started dealing with crime. Mostly small-scale villains and criminals, though the toughest one he faced almost blew up a building. He rescued people from a fire, saved a dog, stopped a car crash, and took care of a bank robber. After a couple hours of this, Izuku stopped on top of a building and focused on increasing his senses to try and detect villains or evil activity. He was doing this until he picked the scent of flames right behind him. He turned and saw Endeavor staring right at him. Izuku never fully liked Endeavor. At first, he abused and mistreated his kids and especially his wife. He neglected Tuya, Fuyumi, and Natsuo, his big siblings, and only stopped neglecting them after Izuku convinced Rei to stick up for them. After that, he did change slightly, actually paying attention to all of his children, but he still favored Shoto and Shoka more. He also saw those who had weak quirks as below him, and he downright despised quirkless people, something that Izuku never liked about him. Deciding to ask a question, Izuku spoke up first. "How come I didn't hear your flames before you landed?" Izuku asked in curiosity. "I can control the expansion of the flames to not make any sound when touching the cold air. I've it just recently." 𝗵𝗲𝗏 answered in an intimidating tone. Izuku nodded towards him and thought about doing the same with his own flames, until 𝗵𝗲𝗏 stood right beside him. "Marry my daughters," 𝗵𝗲𝗏 said suddenly. Izuku didn't even think before replying. "Oh. Shoka will give you strong children. Imagine your quirk and hers combined, the limitless possibilities that your children could have. They could be top heroes before they are even 16. 𝗵𝗏𝗏 said. "I'd rather marry anybody other than Shoka. I hate her, and quite frankly, I'd want the mother of my children to be somebody that I love." Izuku answered slightly off 𝗵𝗏𝗏, though he grinned after. "Then what about 𝗵𝗲𝗎𝗍? She is young, smart, appealing, and her quirk, although not strong, can still give you strong children." 𝗵𝗏𝗏 countered to Izuku. "Me and 𝗵𝗲𝗎𝗍 are like siblings. I love her like a sister, and I can't see myself loving her romantically. Besides, she is like 4.5 years older than me, which is too big of a year difference for a 16-year-old. Izuku debunked that offer, now causing 𝗵𝗏𝗏 to get even more mad. "Why do you not want to marry? If you don't want to love somebody, then you never will. If you just give both of them a chance, then I'm sure that you will grow to love them." 𝗵𝗏𝗏 shouted at him. Izuku kept looking across the city though and didn't bother even turning to him. In any relationship, both people need to be willing to make a relationship before actually getting into it. If not, then there is going to be major problems with that relationship. And as for 𝗵𝗲𝗎𝗍, she sees me as a younger brother as well, meaning that both of us don't want to progress our relationship any further. Especially when she doesn't even know about you trying to marry her to me behind Rei's back. Izuku answered coldly. 𝗵𝗏𝗏 flinched at how Izuku found that out. "I know because I know that Rei would never approve of a quirk marriage, and 𝗵𝗲𝗎 certainly wouldn't agree with this. She likely didn't have any say when you tried to marry Shoka with me, so I'll make it easy for her," Izuku said while standing up. He was going to go fly and search for more criminals, but 𝗵𝗏𝗏 put his hand on his shoulder, stopping him. "Listen, boy. Shoka, my masterpiece, is not herself or at her strongest because of you. If you don't fix my masterpiece, then I'll dash," 𝗵𝗏𝗏 yelled at Izuku until Izuku grabbed his arm and glared harshly at him. "If you want to settle this, then fine. Tomorrow at noon, outside of UA High, I'll fight you in a 1v1 match, no holding back. If you win, then I'll marry Shoka, 𝗵𝗲𝗎𝗍, and Katsumi. But if I win, then you call off all marriages that they have with Izuku Yagi, and you have to get on your knees and beg 𝗵𝗲𝗎 for forgiveness. Deal?" Izuku said. 𝗵𝗏𝗏 stepped back before smirking a cruel smile. "Deal." UA High School, Mach City E, 11:57 p.m. In an intersection of the massive Mach City, stood Izuku Shimura, aka Disaster, and Enji Todoroki, aka 𝗵𝗏𝗏𝗏. They stood about 30 feet apart and were both waiting for the start alarm that would kick off their match. Izuku informed Nizu that he would be using a vacant city for the test battle, and Nizu gave him Mach City E, though under the condition that he broadcasted the fight to everyone in the hero course. Izuku was still in his disaster costume and 𝗵𝗏𝗏 was in his hero costume. They both glared at each other with a deep burning intensity. 𝗵𝗏𝗏 was cocky and thought that Izuku didn't stand a chance. He may have been a hero for 6 years, but he has been one for almost 25 years. In his head, there was no way that he'd lose. Izuku, meanwhile, already knew exactly how to win. All he'd need to do is stall for time and deliver some strikes to 𝗵𝗏𝗏's midsection. And if things weren't in his favor, then he could just disable his quirk and then use some martial arts to knock him flat on his butt. With Class 1A, this day had been mostly uneventful for Class 1A. They did a routine exercise that Aizawa made for each of them in using their quirks, and the only thing that was slightly out of the ordinary was the alarm system activating, though they learned it was because of the media. They were all in their classroom when their teacher, 𝗧𝗵𝗏, rolled in a TV. "Today, we aren't going to do any of the planned lessons. I've been ordered by 𝗍𝗂 to show you all a heroics fight between two pro heroes. You don't have to take notes, just watch and learn. 𝗧𝗵𝗵𝗃 explained before turning the TV on. Class 1A, especially Izumi and her friends, were shocked at what they were seeing. With 𝗍𝗧𝗧𝗏, in Class 3A 𝗍𝗧𝗧𝗏 was talking with Mirio and Tamaki about Izuku and both of them wanted to meet him, so she told them that later today that they would meet him. Mirio was excited since it meant he could soar with a hero that everybody knew about and looked up to. Tamaki wanted to meet Izuku since it seemed that 𝗍𝗧𝗧𝗏 really looked up to him, and because it would get him more used to meeting more heroes without his anxiety. So he really does have multiple quirks. That's amazing. He'll be the #1 hero in just a few years. I can't wait to spar with him. I bet Sir will love to meet him too. Mirio Togata said. He has blonde hair that spikes up from his forehead and cartoonish blue eyes and a funny-looking face, one that almost always has a smile. I don't know guys. And maybe he's a loud P person. Tamaki Amajiki said. He has very dark blue hair that spikes of the back of his head and 3 main fringes of hair, 2 on each sides of his face and 1 down the middle. He has black eyes and somewhat paler skin than his classmates. I'm telling you Tama, Izuku is a good person. He has a little sister with anxiety, so he'll easily understand your problem and work around it. Besides, normally he doesn't even talk somewhat loud, mostly it is soft and smooth. He's also really strong. I learned a lot from him and his teachings about improving quirks. 𝗍𝗧𝗧𝗏 reassured both of her friends. She was going to talk more when their teacher, Midnight, rolled in and turned on a TV and it showed a stare down with the #2 hero of Japan, along with a person that 𝗍𝗧𝗧𝗏 knew all too well. 𝗍𝗪 said that this fight between a new hero, Disaster, and the #2 hero Endeavor will be more than educational for all of you. Learn well from it. Midnight said with a smile as everyone in the class paid attention. Oh look, there's Izuku right now. I wonder why he's fighting Endeavor. Oh well, I'll ask him with you guys after school. 𝗍𝗧𝗧𝗏 said as Mirio smirked in anticipation, while poor Tamaki just shuddered in anxiety. With All Might and Inko in the staff lounge, I'm saying that we need to somehow win Eri over instead of just forcing her way from Izuku. Inko yelled at All Might. They were alone in the teacher lounge while fighting over what they should do about Eri. That brat isn't even our child, she means nothing to us. We'll force Izuku to get rid of her, and with her out of our son's life, he'll be forced to come back to us. All Might said back. But we could just end up driving him away even more than before. We can just use her to get Izuku to forgive us, and when she does that, we can just forget about her or just let Izuku take care of her. You need to stop thinking like that, otherwise Izuku may never come back to us. Inko yelled, not seeing the irony of her situation. They were about to keep arguing until the TV in the lounge suddenly turned on, causing both of them to watch it. They saw their son facing off against a hero that was only second to All Might. Endeavor! They shouted at the same time. They put aside the talk about Eri and rushed towards 𝗍𝗪𝗏's office. They busted through the door and were met with 𝗍𝗪 sipping tea and looking to his own office's TV showing the same thing they saw. Ah, you are both just in time. Come, sit down. I've got front row seats of this fight. 𝗍𝗪 said excitedly. Sir, you have to stop this fight. Izuku is just a kid, he doesn't stand a chance. Order them to stand down. Inko yelled at 𝗍𝗪, who merely smirked. I think you mean Shimura, since he specifically told both of you not to call him by his first name. Also, there is no way in hell I can refuse Izuku's request, he is the reason why UA has so much funding nowadays. And besides, it is too late now, the match is starting in just a few more seconds. 𝗍𝗪 said with anticipation. But sir, don't you think that this is a bit unfair? Izuku may be strong, but he can't possibly win against Endeavor. He could get really hurt. All Might said in desperation. According to Izuku, if anybody is having an unfair disadvantage, it would be Endeavor. This is to show to the both of you along with his former friends and sister, that he doesn't even need your help anymore. So be quiet and watch. 𝗍𝗪 replied with a deathly calm tone that sent a shiver down both of their spines. Suddenly, they looked at the TV as the start alarm was activated, causing their son to truly enter the fight. Back with Izuku the second that the alarm went off, Izuku immediately activated armament. He knew how hot 𝗵𝗲𝗏's flames could get 6 years ago, but he wasn't sure how hot they could get right now, so he was going to take this cautiously. After he covered his entire body in it, he used Tornado to create a large dome of wind around him to make him even harder to hit with medium-range flames. 𝗵𝗏𝗏, noticing both quirks, began his attack. He charged up a Jetfire fist and rushed at Izuku with flames coming from his heels, giving him acceleration. He launched himself towards Izuku and met the barrier of wind with a clash against his fist. Jetfire burn. 𝗵𝗏𝗏 shouted as the flames wrapped around the wind barrier and did nothing to Izuku. My turn. Disastrous death, lightning type, lightning flash. Izuku said as his body was surrounded by electricity from Maelstrom. He suddenly burst through his wind barrier and punched 𝗵𝗏𝗏's right shoulder, due to 𝗵𝗏𝗏 managing to move his body mostly out of the way. That was impressive enough since Izuku sensed his movements and changed the path of his fist to hit him, and yet he still mostly dodged it. Hell spider! 𝗵𝗏𝗏 yelled in pain as he used his hands to launch an ultra-condensed streak of connected flames at Izuku, who reacted quickly with danger sense and teleported back to his starting position. The flames cut clean through 3 buildings and 4 mock cars. Get back here. Ignited arrow. 𝗵𝗏𝗏 shouted as he pulled his arm back and summoned a spear of flames and launched it towards Izuku. Izuku reacted very quickly and used armament to grab onto the arrow and redirect it behind him into a building, which caused it to collapse. I'll hit you with an attack that can't be dodged. Hellfire storm. He yelled as he summoned flames that surrounded him like a whirlwind and slowly expanded, causing winds of heat and dust to hit Izuku. Izuku responded in kind wordlessly, by creating his own vortex of black flames that met 𝗵𝗏𝗏's flames head-on. The black flames overpowered 𝗵𝗏𝗏's flames and dispersed it by swallowing his flames whole. Izuku smirked at 𝗵𝗏𝗏 which him off. That's a unique attack. I think I'll call my version of it Wrath of Amaterasu. What do you think? Izuku said, dubbing his version of 𝗵𝗏𝗏's attack, fully 𝗵𝗏𝗏. Don't get cocky, brat. Hell's curtain. 𝗵𝗏𝗏 said as he put both hands out and a call of flames condensed just in both of his palms. He pushed it out and Izuku gazed upon a literal wave of flames about to swallow him. Izuku gained a smirk as he thought about how to PSS 𝗵𝗏𝗏 even more. He crossed his arms and soon, divine flames and armament activated and surrounded his body. 𝗵𝗏𝗏 waited as he watched Izuku take the attack head-on and smirked, feeling that he finally hit his target for the first time in the fight. Until his smirk left his face when he saw black flames come through his hell's curtain. He was met with a large, almost 150-foot tall avatar of black flames. It had black fire as its hair and wore a samurai helmet with glowing white eyes, and a classic samurai uniform with flames for the cloth of the sleeves and hakama. It had normal sandals and a classical obi sash. This, but no staff or chain ball. Also, this art isn't mine. 𝗵𝗏𝗏 looked at the enormous monstrosity that was the avatar and noticed that Izuku was inside of the avatar in the head and was crossing his arms and with closed eyes. 𝗵𝗏𝗏 grew enraged even more and activated fire at his feet before rushing at the head of the avatar. I'll unleash everything in this one attack. I will defeat you and prove I'm stronger than you. Prominence Bjorn. 𝗵𝗏𝗏 shouted as he ignited his entire body with intense flames that turned a bright yellow color. The flames erupted from his body and created an explosion of flames that stretched to the sky itself and even melted nearby buildings and structures. And yet, the avatar of black flames and armament still held strong, not even wavering in the slightest. The eruption of flames continued burning intensely for a straight 15 seconds before it started cooling down. The avatar of flames still held strong against it though, taking the heat and power of the attack without struggle. After the flames died down, 𝗵𝗏𝗏 fell to the ground yet managed to catch himself in his flames by flying at the last second. His hero costume was burned and exposed parts of his skin that were pink and slightly red with burns. His posture and expression were both of a man just one gust of wind away from collapsing. After 𝗵𝗏𝗏 landed, Izuku lit up the avatar of flames and teleported just in front of 𝗵𝗏𝗏, though his face was one that wore a knowing and calculating look. You are on your very last legs. This is my fight, Izuku said softly without much room for denial. Izuku was the winner. And both him and 𝗵𝗲𝗏 knew it. Though 𝗵𝗏𝗏 didn't accept it. I refuse to lose to a brat like you. 𝗵𝗏𝗏 spoke between huffs and Izuku looked at him with an unreadable expression, one that didn't show any obvious emotions. Izuku began walking quietly to 𝗵𝗏𝗏 and charged up a blue sphere in his hand while walking. 𝗵𝗏𝗏 was barely even looking up at him when the sphere of energy hit directly in his stomach and launched him through 2 buildings, and he landed in an iron railing, denting it greatly. Izuku began walking through the wreckage of the buildings and started charging up another energy sphere in case 𝗵𝗏𝗏 was still conscious. When he reached the injured pro hero, he still very much was. Surrender. Izuku spoke again without emotion. I will make you marry Shoka and 𝗵𝗲𝗏. 𝗵𝗏𝗏 said before his face was pummeled by the sphere and sent into the ground, causing a massive amount of dust to rise up. When the dust settled, Izuku was standing on top of 𝗵𝗏𝗏 while holding a blade at the middle of his neck charged with electricity. 𝗵𝗏𝗏 was bloody and beaten, almost beyond recognition. His face was bloody and missing a few teeth, and he had deep purple bruising on his cheeks and forehead. His arms, torso, and legs were all still suffering from burns, but also what seemed to be fractures. I've won, Izuku said as he looked upon 𝗵𝗏𝗏's closed eyes, indicating that he was unconscious. With Class 1A, there's no FA, Mineta said quietly while himself. Most of the class was dead quiet in absolute shock. He just beat 𝗵𝗏𝗏 like it was nothing. Was the general thought of the class, minus Ijiro, Mina, Katsuki, Shoto, Izumi, Shoka, and Katsumi. Man, Izuburo is manly as hell. I can't wait to work out with him. Ijiro thought in awe and admiration. He was really blown away by his strength and skill, and he hoped that by the time he was a hero, he could hold his own against him. Izuku is amazing. I can't believe I offered to help him with dancing. Mina thought in shock and amazement. He beat my old man. Father must have been fighting you to force you to marry Shoka. If he couldn't win against you, then I will instead. Shoto thought to himself determined. I won't be outdone by you, brother. I'll beat you and get you to become Katsumi's husband, and I'll surpass you as a hero too. Katsuki thought to himself in rage. Brother, I will earn your love back and we'll go back to what we were before. I won't let Eri get in between us. You may be strong, but I will still become stronger than you. Just wait. Izumi thought while gritting her teeth. I don't know why you fought against Dad so brutally, but I forgive you. I'll find a way to get you to marry me and Katsumi, no matter what. Shoka thought while looking at Izuku's turned back. Aizu, you've become one of the strongest heroes here. I'd say congratulations, but I haven't caught up to you in strength yet. Just give me a little more time to catch up to you and I swear I'll make you see my love for you. Katsumi thought while glaring at her desk. With Class 3A, I told you he was really strong. Oh, I know that you two will get along with him just fine. I can't wait for all you to meet him. Nijire said as everyone in the class was dead silent, even Midnight. Yeah, I can't wait to spar with him. Mirio said pumped up for the meeting. White Tamaki said even more scared and anxious than before. With 𝗧𝗍𝗍, did Izuku get hurt in the slightest? Nizu said while sipping from his tea. All Might and Inko were dumbstruck on the other hand. They heard about all that disaster did while in America, but they assumed that it was mostly false or exaggerated. Seeing as how their son defeated 𝗵𝗏𝗏 entirely, without any injuries mind you, meant one thing: Izuku was a lot stronger than they had ever expected. I didn't expect him to grow so much in only 6 years. I always thought that I'd have a chance to help him and teach him, but that's not an option anymore. All Might said sadly with his head down. I'm proud of him for getting so strong, but I just wish that he could have gotten to this level with our help and protection. My baby boy has become an adult and I did close to nothing in my job as a parent. Inko said while tears left her eyes. All Might noticed and hugged her while Nizu simply ignored them. This may be hard to accept, but this is what happened because of your choices, no one else's. The sooner you fully accept that, the better. Nizu said before sipping his tea again. With Izuku, guess I should probably fix this place up really quickly. Izuku said as he put his hands on the ground and activated restoration. Soon, the entire city was enveloped in a green glow and started rebuilding itself. The used to be incredibly damaged, partially melted, mostly collapsed, city transformed back into its normal state after just 30 seconds. I should probably take your sorry but to recovery girl's office, Izuku said, turning back to the unconscious Endeavor and picking him up before teleporting out of the city. After dropping him off in the nurse's office, he teleported back to his apartment. Eri was at school and wouldn't be back until 2.5 hours later. So, he decided to make himself something to eat and to go on some patrols. He made himself some ramen and oranges and finished eating them before he went out on patrols. Hours and 40 minutes later, apartment Izuku teleported back from his patrol to check on Eri and found her in the living room playing with 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 with Uno. There was also 2 others in his house, a blonde-haired and dark blue-haired boys that Izuku recognized from the photos 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 showed him. "Hello, Snowball," Izuku said as Eri immediately rushed over to hug him tightly. He started calling her that about a month ago when he used Heavenly Ice to show Eri what snow and ice looked like. It ended with Eri playing in the snow for about 20 minutes and her smiling all the way through it. It seemed as if though she really enjoyed the snow. "I take it that you must be Mirio Togata and Tamaki Amajiki," Izuku said, turning to his new guests. "Yes indeed. 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 told us a lot about you and of how strong you are. I can't wait to fight with you," Mirio said while smiling from ear to ear. He almost radiates happiness and positive emotions, almost like All Might but more genuine, Izuku thought to himself as Mirio kept smiling. He turned to Tamaki and saw that he immediately flinched and backed away. Izuku smiled slightly before speaking calmly and softly. "Don't worry, if you want to not look at me or not be involved in the conversation, then I understand and you can tune us out if you want." Tamaki backed up before nodding and sitting down on the couch and really just observing the people. "Hey, I think that sir would like you a lot. Do you want to come meet Sir Night-Eye with me?" Mirio asked while Izuku gave it some thought. He is the only person that knows about OFA from All Might, and he is the same person that told All Might that he'd die if he didn't let him choose his successor. Maybe meeting him will get him to snap out of his lack of logic. Izuku thought to himself while remembering what the past users of OFA told him about All Might. Even though the past users left All Might completely, they could still see and hear everything that went through his senses, though he wasn't able to tell what he was thinking. It was also why he was able to sense that All Might had done something to him that would annoy him the day that he went to Ryukyu's agency. That was likely the day that All Might put him in the marriage with Shoka and Katsumi. He also felt something just before his fight with Endeavor, something about hurting or separating Eri from him, which really did piss him off. Izuku would just go to the agency and just show him that he has OFA and see where it takes from there. Given that Mirio is a better person and hero than All Might, Izuku guessed that Night-Eye chose Mirio to become All Might's successor, though he failed to realize that OFA wasn't something that an outsider could simply choose to give to. "Alright, sure. Though I doubt that Night-Eye will actually like me," Izuku answered Mirio's question. Mirio smiled, though he was curious as to why Izuku thought that Night-Eye would not like him. 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 wondered too, and she spoke up. "Why would Night-Eye not like you? He would like anybody that can crack a joke," 𝗵𝗧𝗏 said while remembering her first encounter with the man. "Well," Izuku said while thinking of a cover story when his grandma spoke up in his head. "Izuku, just tell him about it. You don't have to worry about any of them, they're trustworthy." Nana said. "If you say so, though I'll bring us into the pocket dimension though," Izuku said as Nana nodded. Snapping back into reality, Izuku created a portal and spoke to the confused people staring at him. This is a long story, and if anything that I say to fully answer that question gets into the public, then I'll be forced to kill all of you. I'll answer it in this pocket dimension to get rid of any chance of being eavesdropped on," Izuku explained while everyone wondered what was so important. Though everyone entered the portal so their curiosity could be answered. You see, 230 years ago, one long but explanation later, and that is how OFA fully became a quirk? Izuku said as everyone was shocked. A quirk like Izuku's was used for evil. Even more so was that Izuku was the son of that monster. Okay, but what does this have to do with Night-Eye not liking you?" Mirio asked after fully absorbing the story. 5 years ago, All Might was severely injured and his powers started weakening greatly. Night Eye was still his sidekick and read his future and said that he'd die if he chose his son as his successor and begged All Might to let him choose a worthy successor. That was how All Might and Night Eye split. Izuku started explaining. I am All Might's stepson, and because of that, I doubt that Night Eye would take me kindly for stealing 𝗬𝗧𝗍 from a worthy candidate like you, Mirio. Izuku finished explaining. Oh well, that's not good, Mirio said as realization dawned on him. Why'd you tell me about this when Mirio asked, and not when we were hanging out in the last 3 months? 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 asked with an angry pout. Well, to be honest, I didn't know if it would stop you from being friends with me. I can tell that Mirio and Tamaki are both good people, and so are you, but I still wanted to keep this from you for as long as possible. Though my grandmother just told me to get it over with quickly. Izuku said, confusing her. But isn't your grandmother dead? 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 asked. Alright, my grandma was the 7th user of AFO and the mentor to All Might. And most of the users aside from All Might exist in the mind of the current user of AFO. In other words, my grandmother and 6 other people are living in my head because of AFO. Izuku explained. So, you hear voices in your head? 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 asked again. Yep. Isn't that somewhat crazy? Probably. Well then, welcome to the club, she said as she hugged Izuku close to her, with Eri, Tamaki, and Mirio joining just after. Welcome to the Big 3. Though I guess now we're the Big 4. Mirio shouted. Why yeah, welcome, Tamaki said while shivering. Thanks, I guess. Izuku replied. That night the now proclaimed Big 4 and Eri spent the rest of the night playing games and watching shows while just hanging out and having a good time. The next day, UA, on a bus to unforeseen simulation joint, 9:30 a.m. gathered all in a bus were the students of 1A waiting to arrive to the USJ. They were all excited to train in USJ, since Aizawa hyped them up about it yesterday, along with choosing a class president. They wanted to choose Izuku since he was undoubtedly the strongest, but he chose to give it to Ida since it would give him more free time. This made Ida very happy and the class to wonder how he ended up as humble as he is today. Funnily, Izumi was hoping he would be the class president, since she was the vice president. Izuku was sitting with his eyes closed and his arms crossed when he heard Tsuyu ask him a question. Hey Shimura, I've always wanted to ask this, but what exactly is your quirk? She asked with a finger on her chin. My quirk is all for all. It allows me to take, use, give, copy, combine, disable, destroy, and evolve quirks. Izuku responded with his eyes still closed. He could feel the shock of the class though, as everyone was surprised about Izuku having a quirk that powerful. If you don't mind me asking, how many quirks have you taken? Kaminari asked with a nervous face. None, I've only copied and combined quirks so far, though I do copy quirks from villains and heroes that give me permission. Izuku answered, causing most of the class to release a breath of relief. I got to say, that's an amazing quirk, Izuburo. Your quirk is very noticeable and will probably get a lot of attention. My quirk is lame compared to yours. Kirishima said with a frown as he activated Harden on his arm. Ijiro, take this from someone who has more than 20 quirks and has battled against some of the strongest quirks. It doesn't matter how strong or weak or flashy or useless a quirk is. Anybody has what it takes to become a hero if they put their mind to it. You don't even need a quirk to become a hero. Izuku said, shocking everyone, especially his former sister and friends. He still thinks he can be a quirkless hero. Katsuki and Shoto thought together. Darling/dear, why do you think that quirkless people can be heroes? Shoka and Katsumi thought. Brother, I'm sorry I tried to convince you otherwise, but please know that I was only doing that to protect you. Izumi thought sadly. Everyone in the class was surprised that Izuku thought that quirkless people could be heroes. Though nobody noticed the look that existed in Aoyama's eyes. After a couple more minutes of driving, they finally arrived. Stepping out of the bus, they were met with a massive dome structure with USJ in gold paint on the entrance to it. When they entered, they were met with mini environments consisting of various places. A stormy city, a shipwreck, a plaza, a landslide zone to name a few. They were also met with a hero who wore a spacesuit, one that 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏 and Izumi immediately recognized. "Oh my gosh! It's Space Hero, 13. They both yelled. Izuku looked bored while the class was excited to be near such a cool hero. Though Izumi and his former friends noticed his reaction and were saddened. Normally, you'd be ecstatic to see a hero like her. "You've changed way too much, brother," Izumi thought while looking sad. "Did our bullying really kill even your love of heroes?" Katsuki and Shoto thought while feeling guilty. "Aizu/Zuzu, you don't have to worry, we'll change you back into the nerdy, hero-obsessed boy I fell in love with." Katsumi and Shoka both thought. "Where's All Might?" Izuku heard 13 whisper to Aizawa, who merely gave a hand with 3 fingers up. 13 and Izuku both understood and decided to move on, though Izuku had some thoughts. That 𝗵𝗃𝗲𝗺𝗺 can't even keep track of his own time limit. "Alright students, today you will all be working on using your quirks and skills for rescue operations. You see, my quirk is very destructive and dangerous, yet even I can save people rather easily. You all will work on the applications of your quirks in order to save people, not fight. Any questions?" 13 gave her instructions about today. Are those fake villains?" Ijiro shouted while looking and pointing at 3 big purple portals that had a ton of villains coming from them. "Oh, those are real villains. Eraserhead, deal with the villains in the plaza. 13, stay with the students, and I'll take out the big bird creature with 3 quirks." Izuku answered as he used appearance change to 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗏 into his hero costume fully, while both 13 and Aizawa, now Eraserhead, both nodded. "I don't think so," a villain said from a purple portal in front of the group. Out came a thing with a bartender getup and a metal neck brace. "I think I do," Izuku said as he launched a quick fire blast at him that was into a portal and came out him from an open portal from behind. So his quirk allows him to make up to 6 portals that can redirect matter and energy. That quirk could be useful to me, but I need to focus on stopping him first. Izuku broke down the villain's quirk before he dodged his own fire blast and then quickly using his speed quirk with fly to reach around him and disable his quirk. The portals immediately closed, though oddly enough the mist around his neck remained. "What?" the mist creature said in confusion. "My quirk just disabled your quirk. You're under arrest by the way," Izuku said as he quickly used Maelstrom to shock the mist man even more and caused him to pass out. He quickly tapped the villain's shoulder and copied his quirk. It was Warp Gate, which transformed a black fog into a portal that could transport people across places instantaneously. Izuku evolved it to be able to create more portals and have more fog to use. He could also use this to teleport multiple people without using the teleportation mark. "Okay, 13, take the students into the portal," Izuku yelled as he created a portal with his new quirk and set it to just outside of UA. 13 nodded and made a full dash with the students into the portal. Although 8 students still remained. "Izubro, I refuse to leave you here alone. I know it's against the rules, but I can't call myself a man if I abandoned you," Ijiro yelled while activating Harden. "I can be of some use here, so I'll stay and see if I can help out," Denki said with a nervous smirk. "My quirk is pretty versatile, so I'll be here to help," Mina said with a smile. "We're not leaving you alone again," Izuku's sister and her friends said in unison, to which he just sighed. "Fine, permission to use your quirks is granted, but stick with me and watch," Izuku said before rushing at the villains with Aizawa, leaving the 8 students to follow in suit. Aizawa started pretty strong by deactivating villains' quirks and using his scarf and martial arts to quickly beat 3 dozen villains into unconsciousness. Izuku followed closely and began using his elemental quirks to quite easily take out a very good portion of the villains with just massive waves of the elements, and any villain that got close was quickly knocked out with martial arts infused with armament. Ijiro got in close and personal with the villains and beat them up with a surprising amount of strength and speed. Mina was just using acid to make villains fall over themselves and then using acid that releases knockout gas to easily take out a good portion of them. Shoto and Shoka were releasing tons of ice to trap enemies and knock out a lot of them. Shoka was slightly distracted though because she was watching Izuku fight. Katsuki and Katsumi were rushing most of the villains and knocking them out with speed and power that was described as explosive and dangerous. Though Katsumi was also distracted while watching Izuku fight. Izumi tried to help Izuku, but he immediately sped away from her the moment she got close, and by the time she would actually try to help him fight villains, he'd have already dealt with the villain. This continued for a few more minutes until over 80% of the villains were knocked out or very injured. Though Izuku looked and saw that the bird monster and the villain covered in hands were both unmoving. Their fighting spirit is fluctuating and big, meaning that the both of them are likely to be the leaders of these thugs. Though the bird monster seems to be the biggest threat. Izuku thought to himself before he saw the hand villain almost kill Aizawa when he touched the ground while trying to touch an Aizawa, and ended up decaying the ground and breaking it up into dust. Never mind. I have to step in. Izuku though quickly while teleporting to Aizawa and quickly delivering a kick to the handman, though he narrowly dodged it by back-flipping and twisting his body. This guy is as nimble as a cat. From what I can tell, he needs all 5 fingers in order to activate his quirk on the object he's touching. Izuku thought quickly as he dodged some grabs by the villain before he used Tornado to summon some wind to fully blow him back away from Izuku to create some space. Eraser, let me deal with him and the bird monster. You go take care of the students and the rest of the villains, Izuku said quietly. Eraserhead nodded and left quickly. You really are a cheater. It's no fun when a well-planned out attack gets crushed by a secret boss. Especially when you spent all your time looking at the game site to see how to win. The man-villain said as he scratched his neck and showed his gleaming red eyes. This isn't a game. It's not even fun. Don't joke about hurting people or life. Who are you and why are you here? Izuku said and asked very seriously. I am 𝗵𝗲 Shigaraki, and the army was the 1st Battalion of the League of Villains. We were here to kill All Might, but it seems you will have to die in order to get him here. The now-known 𝗵𝗲 said, though Izuku immediately latched on to the Shigaraki in his name. So he's related to my biological father. That means one of 2 things. 1. 𝗵𝗲 is here to kill All Might out of revenge for killing AFO. 2. AFO is still alive and is orchestrating this to kill or weaken All Might and do drastic crimes again. Izuku deducted off if that information. I see, well I'll have to disappoint you, but I'm not dying today at all. I'm guessing that you work for All for One. Izuku said and asked, as he saw 𝗵𝗲 stand there slightly frozen before he answered. How did you know about that? Did you cheat and find out? 𝗵𝗲 asked angrily while pointing at Izuku. So I was right. Should I deal with my dad on my own, or should I let All Might fog after him one more time? I can't just let him go as he pleases, but I can't let someone else other than me or a wielder of OFA face AFO. Izuku thought for a second before answering. Technically speaking, I know of AFO more than anyone else. But enough about that, let's finish our fight. Izuku answers as he rushed at 𝗵𝗲 one more time, though he dodged out of the way after he heard the bird monster try and hit him with one of his punches. Even though he dodged it, he could feel the force and danger radiating off the beast. He jumped a good distance away before he thought about what to do. I'll probably have to use my brute force with armament in order to beat it, but if I do that, then there is a small chance that it isn't enough. I'll just have to try it. Izuku thought before he teleported to the bird monster and met the bird's punch with his own covered in armament. The result led to a massive gust of wind from the 2 resulting forces meeting each other. Izuku felt the vibrations from his punch send ripples of force through the monster's arm and body. That is when Izuku realized what the monster's quirks were. This thing has shock absorption, strength enhancer, speed enhancer, and likely has regeneration. Izuku thought while he widened his eyes, then he decided to finish this fight early and use AFA. He used his contact with the monster to steal all 4 quirks. He combined the speed and strength enhancer quirks, evolved it, and combined it with his own body-enhancing quirks, and did the same with the regeneration quirks. He evolved shock absorption and the new quirk could now nullify kinetic forces, but only at the exact moment of impact. The bird creature, no longer having the quirks in his body, began turning to dust, and ultimately disintegrated right in front of him. Thanks for the quirks, I'll be sure to use them for good instead of evil. Now you are coming with me. Izuku said to 𝗵𝗲𝗄 as he was about to rush him. 𝗵𝗲𝗄 stopped and had an obviously enraged expression behind his hand mask, but right when he was about to say something, black sludge came out of his mouth and quickly surrounded his body. Izuku, noticing that the quirk was making him disappear, tried to reach him to place a teleportation mark on him, but wasn't fast enough and watched as 𝗵𝗲𝗄 disappeared right in front of him. Damn it. Izuku cursed. He looked back to the mist man and noted that his body was also disappearing through the sludge and left very quickly. Great. Izuku said before evaluating the situation. All the villains aside from 𝗵𝗲𝗄 and the mist man were defeated and arrested. Additionally, they went out of there with minimal injuries and 0 casualties. Izuku also walked away with a lot more info on the LOV than they walked away with info on him, meaning that the next time he comes across them, he'll have a distinct advantage. Well, let's round everyone up, Izuku said with a sigh. Minutes later, all of the villains were in the central plaza and were all wrapped up in black 𝗵𝗃𝗄𝗃 summoned by Izuku as he waited for the police and quirk-canceling cuffs to arrive. He also disabled all of the villains' quirks and got all the students and Aizawa evaluated for injuries. Aizawa had small cuts and bruises, but was fine. Mina had a big bruise on her left arm, but was also fine. Kirishima overused his quirk and was tired, but was fine. Katsuki and Katsumi were both fine other than some small exhaustion. Shoto and Shoka both suffered from slight hypothermia, but were hearing back up with a fire that Izuku started and were going to be fine. Izumi had small cuts and bruises and overused her quirk, but would make a full recovery. It was a complete landslide victory. The entrance to the USJ was opened and in came all the hero staff in UA, including Nizu, All Might, Green Tornado, and all of Class 1A, all in their hero costumes. We have brought reinforcements? Ida shouted. Never fear, for I am here. All Might also yelled in his buff form. The villains were all taken care of. We called the police and they should come here in about 5 minutes. Nizu, get Aizawa and the students to nurse Recovery Girl, and the rest of you, help me detain the villains. Izuku said calmly, causing All Might to gain a shocked expression with everybody else. Disaster, describe what happened after the students left. Nizu ordered. Sir, me, Eraserhead, Mina Ashido, Eijiro Kirishima, Shoto and Shoka Todoroki, Katsuki and Katsumi Bakugou, and Izumi Yagi all stayed behind to handle the villains at the USJ. We managed to defeat all of them with minimal injuries. The 2 main villains who orchestrated this would likely be Tamura Shigaraki and this mist person who I fought with that both escaped. They also had this bird-like monster with 4 quirks inside of its body. Izuku explained what happened and the noteworthy details. The last thing he said though shocked the class and the staff, but All Might, Inko, and Nizu all had the same thought. AFO is still alive. The next day, Class 1A, 9:20 a.m. in the classroom after the previous days. Hectic Actions was Class 1A ready to learn again. Everyone was still a little bit anxious and jumpy from the close encounter with villains. It was the class's first true dose of reality and what being a hero can really be about. Izuku was sitting quietly with Eijiro and Mina while twirling a pencil. The only thing on his mind was really what would happen next, regarding his biological father. Should I chase him down, or should I just face him when he eventually is forced to show himself? Izuku thought while planning on eventually fighting AFO. The past users of OFA, and especially his uncle, all looked at him with slight guilt. They all failed to deal with AFO, and now, Izuku has to deal with him, placing even more responsibility on his shoulders. The class went quiet when Aizawa walked in with bandages over his left arm and a band-aid on his cheek. Alright class, since the incident at the USJ, UA has decided it needs to showcase its power. In 2 weeks, we shall begin the annual sports festival, and all of you will be participating. Except Izuku though. Aizawa explained, though causing some confusion. Isn't it a little early to do something so mainstream after an attack? Tsuyu asked with a finger on her cheek. Maybe, but it will without a doubt show that UA is still safe for kids. Aizawa replied offhandedly. Why is Izubro not participating? Eijiro asked while wondering why his best friend wasn't allowed in. The primary purpose of the sports festival is to showcase our students so that they can get internships at hero agencies. Izuku is already a pro hero, meaning that it would be both unfair and pointless for him to enter. Aizawa explained, causing the students to nod, though Izumi and her friends were disappointed that Izuku wouldn't be able to compete with them. Brother, I wanted to face you so I could force you to give my sister a chance. Both Katsuki and Shoto thought together while glaring at their desk. Izuku, I'll get on your level one day and show you that I'm ready to be your sister again. Izumi thought while looking at Izuku. Aizu, how can I face you again and get you to look at me as a woman? Katsumi thought longingly while staring at Izuku. Zuzu, if I hadn't bullied you, you'd be here with me, married with Katsumi and probably with a kid on the way. Shoka thought sadly while looking at the ground, trying not to cry. I wonder if I should take Mirio and Tamaki to Jasmine Tea while the sports festival goes on. 𝗎𝗎𝗓 will probably want to watch it live though, so maybe I can just teleport there and pick it up and bring it back. Should I tell her about Izumi and her friend's torment? I'll get it over with. Izuku thought to himself while making to finally reveal everything to 𝗎𝗎𝗓. The past users of OFA all smiled at how much progress Izuku showed. 4 months ago, he was antisocial and showed nothing other than blank or fake emotions, and now, he's opening up to people whom he actually trusts more than anything. Nana and Yoichi were both happy that their grandson/nephew could finally move on from his terrible upbringing. You will all be using these 2 weeks to train your quirks to their limits and to expand their uses. Izuku, since you've already improved enough, you can do your own thing for these next 2 weeks. If that is all, you are all dismissed. Aizawa finished speaking. Yes, sensei? Everyone said as Izuku stood up before walking out the class. He needed to go see Nizu about something he wanted to try for a while. He walked there before opening the door and was met with All Might and Inko in their hero costumes, albeit All Might was shrunken. Ah, Izuku Shimura. What can I help you with? Nizu asked excitedly. Now that Izuku was funding and helping UA, Nizu fully immersed himself into his abandoned projects. Support and technological gear for both the school and heroes that could help them out were put on hold since he started UA, but now he can finally continue them. Sir, I'm asking for a 2 weeks of leave. Since the students are simply training for the sports festival, it'd be stupid for someone barred from it like me would need to train for it. Izuku explained his visit. Understandable. Very well then, I'll allow 2 weeks of leave. Also, Izuku, I wanted to ask if you could supervise a certain project that I'm working on. Nizu agreed and asked, hold on. Why is Izuku barred from the festival? He deserves a right to get internship offers from heroes. All Might interrupted, causing both Izuku and Nizu to sigh at the exact same time. All Might, why would a hero who already has an agency need internship offers? Nizu questioned, making All Might and Inko stop with their mouths open. They were probably hoping to have me in the festival, find out my quirks, and then offer me an internship at Might Tower so they can have family bond times. Izuku said with his eyes closed as both Inko and All Might both to freeze. I'll take your silence as me hitting the nail on the head. Like I'd ever need help from a bias like All Might or a failure of a mother like you. Izuku spoke harshly while glaring at the two. Honestly, the fact that even an ounce of my BLD came from your womb makes me sick to my stomach. Izuku said even colder, making Inko burst into tears from Izuku's insult. All Might didn't like this and got into his buff form to try and intimidate Izuku. Izuku, apologize to your mother right now. All Might yelled at him before Izuku used fighting spirit to enforce his will on All Might again, causing him to have trouble breathing. I won't apologize for speaking my mind, Izuku said while glaring fully at All Might before teleporting away, causing All Might to finally be able to breathe again. I've said this once and I'll say this again. The sooner you accept the fact that Izuku isn't coming back, the better it is for you. Nizu said while mad that Izuku didn't fully hear out his offer. All he was met with was an uncomfortable silence. Jasmine Dragon, 2 days after USJ attack, Izuku sat at his booth with 𝗎𝗎𝗓 and Eri, both of whom were sitting at his sides while drinking tea and snacking on some complimentary pudding. You may ask yourself why Izuku or 𝗎𝗎𝗓 weren't on Hero Patrol, so let me rewind it to when it gets explained. Flashback, Izuku's apartment, 2 hours earlier, Izuku was chilling in his apartment with Eri while watching some TV. He was mostly thinking about what to do with his day since he had 2 weeks before he headed back to UA. He needed to start a few more businesses and make sure that they could start up faster. He also needed to create more commercials with Ryukyu for his new businesses, and he finally needed to see if he could gain more control over his new portal quirk. Though Izuku managed to learn something about the portal quirk, it was actually 2 quirks combined into one, so he separated the 2 quirks with some effort. One of those quirks was called Cloud, and the other one was called Warp. Cloud allowed the user to create clouds of various sizes that could hold people on them and even hide objects inside of them. They were also able to fly pretty fast too. Izuku evolved the quirk to be able to hold up more than 1,000 pounds and made them able to fly on their own while on autopilot. Warp, on the other hand, was a quirk that allowed the user to create a portal and use it go to places they have been to before, but the portal was only the size of a basketball. Izuku evolved the quirk to have the portal be up to 10 meters in diameter, and he could create multiple portals other than just 2. He decided to combine Smokescreen with Cloud to better double as both a hindrance for seeing, but also to move villains inside the cloud and allow him to separate his allies in the cloud to get them in better positions. Izuku dubbed the new quirk as 𝗵𝘃𝗲, since it did sound like something straight out of mythology. While he was thinking of what to do, his apartment door unlocked and opened and 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 came through the door. Since it was a Saturday, it made sense that she wasn't at school, but he would have guessed that she would be at Ryukyu's agency right now, so he asked her, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏, what are you doing here? Don't you have to be at Ryukyu's agency? As he said this, Eri got up to go hug her, which 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 returned fully. I got called by Ryukyu to take a 2-week resting PRD. Since I became the strongest at Ryukyu's agency, I did a lot of hero work, almost as much as Ryukyu. So she said I was working too hard and that I should take a resting PRD and focus more on school since it's the start of the semester. So I decided to hang out and do stuff with you and Eri. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 explained while Izuku blushed at the way she worded it. He'd never tell anyone other than the past users of OFA, but he had a crush on 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏. Well then, one of us can take turns watching Eri, while the other does hero work, or we can just relax the day off. Izuku offered, getting the blush off his face. I think we should take the day off for now. You may not realize it, but you've been overworking yourself for the past 2 months. We should probably relax a bit. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 proposed as Izuku opened his mouth to reply before 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 spoke before him. Don't say you haven't been overworking yourself either. You've been on patrol for a total of 80 hours a week, and it's honestly higher, for the past 3 months. You are overworking yourself, no question. She said again. How did you know that? I'm very observant on what you do. Well, okay then. Jasmine Dragon. Jasmine Dragon. Flashback done. Jasmine Dragon. Currently, I'm surprised that she kept track of how long I worked. She probably does that with Mirio and Tamaki too. Izuku thought before his grandmother pulled him into OFA again. Huh, why did you bring me here? Did something happen? Izuku asked as all the past users were sitting in front of him. Izuku, we've all been watching you interact with 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏, and we've all held out tongues, but at this point it's becoming unbearable. Ask 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 to be your girlfriend already. Nana shouted at him. Once he fully registered just exactly what she said, his face became the same color as a tomato. 𝗬𝗬𝗪𝗧𝗏. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 as my girlfriend. There's no way that she likes me. I mean, sure, I might have a crush on her, but she already has Tamaki and Mirio. She's probably crushing on them, and one of them is probably crushing on her. Izuku shouted out in denial, though heavily blushed when he admitted to having a crush on her. Izuku, Mirio, and Tamaki are gay for each other. Hinagawa Aizawa said with a dead serious tone. What? Izuku asked. She's bisexual and can see those things, but they are most definitely at the very least not straight. And explained while Izuku nodded. Izuku, it's obvious that she returns the feelings. She blushes every time you make contact with her. She calls you by your first name, and when you say her name, she slightly blushes. She constantly looks at you and blushes whenever she saw you shirtless while you were training her. She loves Eri, and she loves you too. You may be denser than AF cubic meter of gold, but we sure as hell aren't. Daigoro Banjo explained. But even if what you just said is true, if I hung out with her, then she'd have a massive target on her back. I'm the son of both All for One, Japan's worst criminal, and All Might, Japan's strongest hero. As much as I don't associate myself with either of them, once people realize there's a connection between us, they'll go straight for her. Izuku explained. But you aren't. Remember, you're Izuku Shimura, and you have both All for All and One for All, two quirks that guarantee the government is going to take your word very seriously. Not only that, but you have no physical connection to either of them in terms of looks, so your quirk could be mistaken as just a random iteration of All for One that just happened by random chance. Yuichii reminded him. Izuku, you let Eri and 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗪 into your life and cherish them both. The least you can do for 𝗵𝗲𝗪 is repay her by being honest with both yourself and her. Just admit it to her, and she may just return the feeling. If she doesn't, then it's not the end of the world. There are plenty of women out there who can appreciate you. And if she does, then it's even better. Mikatsu offered him to do. But I'm afraid of how much it'll hurt. If she doesn't want me, then only Eri would ever truly want me, and that's only because I provide her with things. Izuku said before he got punched in the jaw by 𝗵𝗃𝗲𝗄. He looked up and saw that 𝗵𝗃𝗲𝗄 and the rest of the OFA users were looking at him in utter sadness. Izuku, don't ever think that just because she doesn't love you as a partner, that she doesn't want you. She cares about you at the very least, and actively tries to hang out with you, even introducing her friends to you. And Eri loves you too, not because you give her food, but because you are there for her. You told her she wasn't cursed, that you would love her unconditionally. Do you really think a 6-year-old like her that went through all that she did, wouldn't return the feelings? We want you to be around us. Mirio and Tamaki do too. Hell, Hawks, Kirishima, Mina, they all want to be around you. Not because you're strong, but because you are you. 𝗵𝗃𝗲𝗄 shouted at him, as he finally realized what he was talking about. He'd separated himself from actually trusting them, even though he cared for them more than he cared about himself. He needed to actually put faith in them and faith in what they thought was right. He loved 𝗵𝗲𝗪 and Eri. 𝗵𝗵𝗪, romantically, and Eri is his only little sister. So he needed to believe that they genuinely loved him. God, I'm an idiot? Izuku said with a sad chuckle. Maybe, but you are our idiot and theirs. Go and ask her out and show that you care for her romantically. Nana said softly, to which Izuku nodded and stood up before being pushed out of OFA. Waking back up into the real world, he saw that 𝗵𝗲𝗪 was still drinking tea while Eri had stopped eating and was leaning her head into his arm. Izuku smiled at the now asleep Eri before he turned to 𝗵𝗲𝗪 and nudged her shoulder, drawing her attention. Hey, 𝗵𝗵𝗪. This may be out of the blue, but, do you want to go get dinner with me? Izuku asked uncertainly. Like, hanging out? 𝗵𝗲𝗪 asked while blushing slightly. No, like as in like, a date. Like, a romantic one. Izuku clarified while also blushing. 𝗵𝗲𝗪 didn't respond, and took 5 seconds to fully register exactly what Izuku said. Romantically. She thought while fully processing it. Yes. She said before going into an atomic blush, and Izuku smiled brightly at her while also blushing greatly. Did you want dinner at, like, 7 o'clock? Izuku asked while still smiling. Why yeah, it sounds nice. She agreed, almost like she was in a trance while blushing still. I'll pick you up at your place at 6:55. I'll see you later. Izuku said, paying for the tea and pudding, before teleporting back home with Eri. 𝗵𝗲𝗪 stayed still, almost not blinking at what had just happened. When she finally found out what she just did, she screamed internally before rushing outside the tea shop and back home in a total rush. With Izuku, at his apartment after he put Eri in his bed to take a nap, Izuku got into the living room and jumped into the air at realizing exactly what happened. All the past users were all laughing and smiling at his reaction, all while being happy at what he just did. I can't believe that I just did that. I just asked out 𝗵𝗲𝗪. What should I do? Where should I take her? What will I wear? How do I act? Izuku yelled and asked out loud before going into a muttering spree. Even though it was an old habit from his childhood that he hated, he still had it with him, though he managed to keep it under wraps most of the time, well, until now. Izuku, calm down. We can all help you. Nana said from OFA. Most of us have had personal relationships, and even though they didn't end up well, we can give you good advice. Since 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 is a bubbly and talkative girl, take her to a place that is cozy and relaxing, not high society or too poor. I'd recommend the cat cafe that my descendant told you about. Hinagawa explained. When you arrive at the door, greet her, and then her father, and make sure to give him a nice and firm handshake. Make sure to maintain eye contact with him at all costs, and don't look to the floor. Daigoro spoke, since he dated a daddy's girl. Wear something nice and casual. Nothing like your bartender's getup, but something like a nice shirt and comfy, maybe even a watch. And no matter what 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 looks like, tell her she looks appealing or stunning. Nana told him while smiling and remembering her first date with her husband. Always make sure to pay for the dinner. Some women take offense for paying, but since you asked her on a date, you should pay, and if she says she wants to pay, tell her you don't mind, but that you want to pay for at least 75% of it. Mikatsu said. He knew what it was like to date women who wanted to pay for food, so he told him what to expect. No matter what, always be yourself around her. She loves you for you, so if you pretend to be something you're not, then any women will think that you're lying to them and that you can't be trusted. No matter what, show her the real you, and tell her the truth about your former sister and friends after this. She'll need to know about what you went through. Yuichi said. He remembered having to break it to his first girlfriend the truth about his quirk and his brother. Boy, was he lucky that she stayed with him until the day he died. But I'll do what you said. I still have 5.5 hours to get ready. Help me on what clothes to pick. Izuku said out loud as he used appearance change to create some clothes that every past user took comments on. 54 p.m., Heido residence Izuku stood outside the house of his soon-to-be girlfriend and decided to knock. He wore a plain dark green shirt with a UA pin on his left bicep, along with a pair of black cotton and his normal red shoes. He also wore a plain blue Rolex watch. He knocked a few times and the door opened to reveal 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 standing there wearing an outfit that made Izuku blush just from seeing. She wore a blue short-sleeved vest with a white undershirt and sea foam green. She looked appealing, stunning, and absolutely amazing in even the simplest of clothes. Hey Izuku. You look handsome. 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 said first with a blush from seeing Izuku in his clothes. Even with his plain shirt, she could see his hard-earned muscles all along his torso and even in his legs. He was 3 inches taller than her, but he was perfect in height difference since she could still stare him directly in the eyes. He also had a nice face to look at and stare at, and his hair was fluffy as it always was. Thanks, you look appealing. You look gorgeous. Izuku replied in a blushing stupor, getting 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 to blush even more. Before they could say anything else, 𝗵𝗧𝗏𝗧's father pulled 𝗵𝗧𝗏𝗏 aside to look at Izuku. Ichika Heido was a man of many words and a very caring and loving man, so he and Izuku got along just fine. Ichika had short white hair and baby blue eyes with a tall and slightly muscular stature of 6 feet 5 inches. He wore a black short-sleeved cotton shirt with dark blue and had brown shoes. Izuku looked at him as he closed the door behind him to keep things private between him and Izuku. Izuku noted how he didn't carry any hostility, so he was in the clear about being rejected by the father, but he did seem to be almost analyzing him. First, before you say anything, let me say something I should have when you first started hanging out with her. Thank you for making 𝗵𝗧𝗏𝗏 happy again, and bringing back her nice smile. Ichika said, to which Izuku just widened his eyes. He wasn't really expecting that. When summer started, 𝗵𝗧𝗏𝗏's best friends left to train or visit family, so she was left all alone for the most part other than Ms. Ryukyu. But then, you came along, and made her so happy even with all her friends gone. I was worried she'd not smile till school started again, and yet she smiled after a mere 3 weeks. Ichika continued to explain. It's no problem. She also helped me a lot too. She was the first genuine friend around my age in my entire life, so she also saved me from not smiling. I want you to know that I care about 𝗵𝗧𝗏𝗏 more than I do my own life, and that she means the world to me. Izuku responded with a smile. Ichika smiled softly at him before bowing. I can tell that you actually mean that, so I won't threaten you, but I want you to keep making 𝗵𝗧𝗏𝗏 happy. She loves you a lot, and I can tell that you feel the same way. Get her home before 9 p.m. Ichika said. He was met with a smile and a nod. 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 wondered what her dad and Izuku were talking about until her dad opened the door and pushed her out into Izuku. "You two have fun. Be responsible and be back before 9. He said while giving 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 a kiss on her forehead. Izuku smiled at him before he took 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 and teleported them to the restaurant. "Your dad was nice, he was just easing the tension with me. Anyway, this is actually a restaurant that 𝗧𝗏 told me about. It's got pretty good food and it has cats that you can pet while you eat or after," Izuku said as he took her hand and led her in. The cafe was more like a cafe, with a cozy and homey feel to it. There were some people, though it wasn't overcrowded or overworked. There were some cats walking around the restaurant being petted by the customers and even the staff. "Excuse me, can we have a seat?" Izuku asked the staff man at the entrance of the cafe. "Sure, follow me," he said before leading them to a table that was right next to the windows. "May I take your orders? Maybe some drinks?" he asked. "I'll have some green tea please," Izuku said. "I'll have the same," 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 also said. After the man went to go make their drinks, Izuku turned to see 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 with her elbows on the table and her hands holding up her head. Izuku found it cute but started a conversation. "What is it?" Izuku asked with a smile. "Nothing really, I'm just taking it in that I actually got a date with a nice man," 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 said. "I hope that it can turn into dating and a relationship. And it shouldn't be unbelievable, you are a very kind person." Izuku told her. "What else do you like about me?" 𝗵𝗧𝗏 asked in curiosity. "Your curiosity for quirks is both adorable and loving, especially since I do so as well. You're also very courageous, rushing into danger. To save people you barely know, I can't help but admire that about you. You're funny too, you always know when to make jokes and how to brighten just about anybody's day." Izuku listed off just off the top of his head. "What about my looks?" 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 asked while being self-conscious. "Well, not that they matter too much, but your eyes are very easy to look at. They have this sorta captivating look to them, and I love staring at them. Your hair is both pretty and adorable. You look like a mix between a princess and an excited girl with your hair. Your skin is very soft and very smooth, and I know this sounds weird, but I like just touching it and feeling it. Your face is very attractive and in my mind, perfect, since you look both appealing and cute. You also manage to turn any outfit you wear into something stunning." Izuku listed off again while still smiling. "What I meant was, my melons and butt," 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 said quietly while looking at the ground. Izuku's eyes widened before remembering her story. She was ignored till she became strong, so people might have said certain things about her body. Something along the lines of, "Your looks are the only redeeming thing about you." Well, personally, I don't think that matters much. I fell for your personality, not parts of your body. But if you must know, to me, your melons are just the right size, and they are very appealing to me. Your, rear is also very attractive to me," Izuku said, though blushing halfway through. He noticed that 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 was smiling, so he decided to comfort her. "𝗵𝗧𝗏, I don't care about their size or your looks. I'm not like a scumbag that judges women off of their chest. That's an easy way to spend the rest of your life without anyone by your side. No matter what people said to you before, don't ever think I'll leave you because of something as insignificant as appearance," Izuku said while getting 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 to smile even more. "Is there anything that made you fall for me?" Izuku asked 𝗵𝗧𝗏 after a few short seconds, where the waiter came back with the drinks and the menus, leaving them to chat while looking at the menu. "Well, I'll admit, I may have been a fangirl of disaster, but honestly it was really just admiration. I fell in love with you when you said you understood what it was like to be worthless. I probably should have told you this, but Mirio and Tamaki are gay for each other, so it's probably only a matter of time till they confess, but I lost hope of ever falling in love. No one else at UA in my year looked at me as if though I was a person. All the boys saw either an easy weak hero student to have a good time with, and all the girls from my year hated me for stealing their boyfriends. But then I saw the way you looked at me, not as an easy lay, but as a person," 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 explained while Izuku paid close attention and was happy for why she fell in love with him. "Also, you're really sweet and really kind, even though it's hard to tell at first glance. You took in Eri out of nowhere, And you helped me with everything I had, and yet, you went through a whole lot more than I did. I can't believe that All Might, someone that everyone looks up to because he claims everyone can be a hero, neglected his own son, stepson. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 said while gaining an angered expression at the end of it. Yeah, it was a shock to me too when I discovered that he wasn't my dad. I honestly thought that All Might would always say, you can be a hero, even if you're quirkless. But I was crushed when both my father figure and my longtime idol crushed my dreams without even thinking of me. Izuku said while gaining a slightly hurt expression while thinking back to that day. Izuku, do you sometimes wish that they didn't ignore and abuse you, that you had a family and friends that cared for you and actually accepted you? 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 asked while waiting for Izuku's response. Honestly, I was for the past 12 years. But then I met a little reminder of what I was like when I was younger, and I met someone else who was also mentally broken. And ever since you, me, and Eri have become a sort of family, I haven't thought about what it would be like having them at my side. Izuku said while smiling again. This may sound weird, but I like the fact that they ignored and tormented me, because now, I'm with the people that genuinely care about me. Izuku said while closing his eyes and smiling. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 also smiled at him. Ever since she learned the full truth behind Izuku's past, she was worried that his tormentors may try to separate them from each other. She blushed and felt warm inside knowing that Izuku would rather be with her than with them. Izuku, I know that you may not like this given your trust issues, but do you want to let me be a part of your family? 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 asked. Izuku blushed and his eyes widened in shock. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏, I've wanted to hear you say that for so long. I'd love for you to be my girlfriend and Eri's actual sister-in-law. Izuku replied while smiling. I've always wanted to hear you say one thing in return though. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 said while gaining a devious look to her face. Izuku was confused and it was obvious from his face. I want you to tell me that you love me. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 said, to which Izuku blushed fiercely at her request, though he coughed into his hand and manned up. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏, I love you a lot, and I would be honored to be your boyfriend. Izuku said while blushing and looking at her. I accept. Now let's celebrate with some dinner and cat petting. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 said while petting a cat that jumped up on their table. That went on to order their food and pet many cats while just talking and enjoying each other's presence. They talked about their work, what they were doing, what they were planning, and what they were dealing with. So you're telling me that Endeavor fought you because he wanted to put you in a quirk marriage with both of his daughters. And not only that, but Shoka Todoroki and this Katsumi Bakugou are obsessed with being your wife. That's so not cool. If you need me, I can drop by your class and make out with you to show them that you're mine. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 said while secretly being that two of Izuku's tormentors would try and pretend to love him. I didn't know that you had such a jealous side. I'll keep that in mind, though I'll only do so to mess with them. Izuku said with a chuckle. Is my jealous side unattractive? 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 asked uncertain. Actually no, I find it quite cute and quite showing of your care for me. If anyone tries to hit on you, just call me and I'll do the same thing. Izuku replied. Do you ever think that Shoka and Katsumi actually love you? 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 asked while trying to see what she could use against them in winning Izuku, even though she technically won since she's his girlfriend. Shoka was my first crush, and once she realized what she did to me was wrong, she most likely thought that the only way to make it up to me was to be my wife. Katsumi must be in a similar boat, though maybe she had a crush on me before. Either way, neither of them actually love me for me, and I don't even like them. Izuku explained, which got 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 to smile at and love him even more. After they got finished with dinner, Izuku paid, since he invited her on the date and he had tons of money. That and 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 forgot to bring her wallet. They left the restaurant and Izuku teleported her to a few landmarks in Japan in order to show her some appealing things. He did so for about 1.5 hours when it was 8:47. Hey, come fly with me, I want to show you something. Izuku said as he activated fly. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 followed him happily as she also activated her quirk and started flying right next to him. They flew for a while just going up, farther and farther away from ground. Izuku made sure to keep her from passing out by making an air bubble around her. After about 3 minutes of just flying up, they stopped and Izuku took her in his arms and kissed her. Check this out, Izuku said while smiling. He then used his tornado quirk to do something that he found appealing. He focused on the air and 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗪 waited for something to happen. Soon, green and blue waves of light started sparking above them, and they were amazing. They danced across the endless sky and made both of them stop to truly take in the sight. Izuku held his control for 3 seconds before letting the natural phenomenon continue its show. Izuku, it's amazing. How did you do it? 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗪 asked breathlessly. The northern lights are a result of carefully manipulating the air particles as they interact with the charged particles left from the sun. I can detect these charged particles with Maelstrom, so I just use Tornado to send those air particles into them. Izuku explained. 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗪, whenever I'm with you, I feel like I'm invincible, like I can take on the world and not get a scratch. You're the first person my age that I called a friend, and the first person I've ever fully fallen for. This show is all for you, Izuku said while caressing her cheek. He then sealed the deal by kissing her lips, which 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗪 returned in full. That was the happiest day of Izuku's life. The next day, Izuku's apartment, 6:30 a.m. Izuku woke up with a smile, thinking he had a very good dream last night. He thought that until he looked in the mirror and saw the blue lipstick marks on his cheeks. Oh my god, I actually have 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗪 as my girlfriend. Izuku shouted in realization. Did you think it was a dream? He heard his grandmother from his kind. It was so good I thought I was having the best dream in my entire life. Izuku replied. He smiled the rest of the morning after making food for Eri and getting breakfast in him. When Eri got up and noted her brother's happy expression, she wondered why he was smiling like that. Brother, why are you smiling? She asked innocently. Eri, I have 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗪 as my girlfriend now. She's now more part of our family than she's ever been. Izuku told her, still smiling. What's a girlfriend? Eri asked while being adorably curious. You see, a girlfriend or a boyfriend is a person who is dating another person that they love. I love 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗪 and she loves me, so I asked her yesterday and she said yes. Izuku explained the term and what happened yesterday. Does that mean she's not my big sister anymore? Eri asked while getting sad. No, Eri. If anything, she's more your sister now than before. Izuku said while giving her a hug as she brightened up and smiled. Eri, I have to go pick up groceries, I'll be back in 10 minutes, okay? Izuku said as Eri nodded. Izuku kissed her forehead before teleporting to the market, leaving her alone in the house. Eri finished her breakfast and savored it a lot before she went to go watch some TV. She turned on a kids channel that her brother showed her and watched it for a while. After a good second though, somebody knocked on the apartment door. Eri remembered her brother telling her that if someone knocked, to not answer the door. So she ignored it and continued watching TV. But the door was knocked on again, which made Eri very nervous, since the neighbors weren't even up normally. Eri walked up to the door with a step stool and looked through the door hole. She started hyperventilating when she saw a man with a beak-like mask. She backed up from the door and hid in Izuku's room before she was hiding under the bed waiting for him to go away. That didn't happen, as the door to the apartment was loudly knocked down, and she heard footsteps into the room. She heard the footsteps draw nearer and nearer, so she stopped breathing loudly, though it was hard when she was almost having a panic attack. The footsteps were louder, until she knew he was in the room. The man noticeably sighed loudly as he crouched down to look under the bed, as his yellow and angry eyes met with her red and terrified eyes. Well, I finally found you. Come with me now, Eri, and I won't get madder than I already am. The man said as he reached for his white glove and began pulling it off. Eri flinched back as memories from what the man did to her came rushing back into her mind. She sweated noticeably as she inched farther away from the man. I'm already off as it is. Come with me now. Before I have to get myself dirty. The man snarled at her as he removed his gloves, causing Eri to be terrified even further, before she started crying as she got out from under the bed. The man had a disgusting gleam in his yellow eyes as he watched her cry and stand up still in fear. Was that so much to ask for? We have a lot of work to catch up on. I take it that this will be the last time that you run away from me. The man said as he harshly grabbed her shoulder and practically had to drag the crying Eri out of the apartment. They walked down the elevator in silence as Eri was crying the entire time. They walked out of the apartment with nobody stopping them, as the man led her to a car and drove off with her. Both the man and 𝗧𝗓𝗍 failed to realize a certain hero watching them leave from the sky. The man had dirty blonde hair and golden eyes that stared calculatedly and slightly angry at the man with the bird mask. He wore beige baggy with black boots and beige jacket with fur on the ends of the sleeves and where the zipper leads up to the collar. He also had black gloves and a black and yellow lined fitting shirt. He also had a pair of pretty large wings that kept him up in the air. This was wing hero, 𝗧𝗵𝗃, who was good friends with Izuku for about a little less than 3 months. He became his friend after he helped him take down a villain while in perfect sync, and they teamed up a lot after that while working cases and getting to become each other's friend. He also was the only person with bird-like features that could hug 𝗧𝗓𝗍, and he called her his little sister due to her adorableness and her curiosity. That must be 𝗲𝗏𝗃 that Izuku warned me about. I'll place a couple of feathers to go follow them. I should let Izuku know too. 𝗧𝗵𝗃 said as he quickly texted Izuku as he trailed the car and let some of his feathers attach to the car to see where they're headed. With Izuku after getting the groceries, he was going to teleport to the house after he got finished checking them from the aisle, when his phone rang and he checked the text and saw 𝗧𝗵𝗃 saying that 𝗲𝗏𝗃 had just left his apartment with 𝗧𝗓𝗍. His eyes widened as he finished checking his items out quickly and put them into his pocket dimension. He was quick to text 𝗧𝗵𝗃 about where they were headed, and saw that he was taking them to a precinct he hadn't been to, much to his annoyance. 𝗧𝗓𝗍, please wait for me. Izuku thought as he activated fly and flew at Mach speed, causing many people to wake up and those who were already up to look at him. Minutes later Izuku slowed down and landed on a building just across the street from the building and recognized the location. It was the 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗁, a group that was highly suspected of drag smuggling and the cases of quirk disabling bullets. They weren't arrested yet since the hero association didn't have enough evidence against them other than testimonies from captured or arrested buyers of the quirk erasing bullet. Izuku waited for a second until he heard 𝗧𝗓𝗍𝗍's voice, and looked to see a black car and a man he instantly recognized. 𝗲𝗏𝗃𝗁, a B-rank villain whose quirk allowed him to deconstruct and reconstruct matter in any way he saw fit. It was deadly since it worked on both organic and non-organic matter, meaning all he'd have to do is touch you and you're dead. Izuku needed to get 𝗧𝗓𝗍 out of there before disabling his quirk, so he waited for 𝗲𝗏𝗃𝗁 and 𝗧𝗓𝗍 to get out of the car. When the car parked, he watched as 𝗲𝗏𝗃𝗁 got out and 𝗧𝗓𝗍 just barely being able to stand and walk while having a panic attack. Izuku was planning on rescuing her after 𝗲𝗏𝗃𝗁 left her alone in the base. That changed the second he saw 𝗧𝗓𝗍, crying and terrified while being forced to walk with 𝗲𝗏𝗃𝗁. Izuku was immediately filled with nothing but pure rage and an insatiable longing to make 𝗲𝗏𝗃𝗁's death the most agonizing experience the 𝗵𝗃𝗲𝗍 would get. Izuku quickly used fly to swoop down and snatch 𝗧𝗓𝗍 just before 𝗲𝗏𝗃𝗁 took her hand. He skidded to a stop as 𝗧𝗓𝗍 caught up with what happened, when she saw her brother holding her. The second she realized that her brother came to save her, she hugged her brother and started crying about being safe again. Izuku hugged her back before picking her up and putting her on his back and glaring harshly at 𝗲𝗏𝗃𝗁 as he activated fighting spirit to both gauge 𝗲𝗏𝗃𝗁 and intimidate him. 𝗲𝗏𝗃𝗁's flame was yellow and was fluctuating dangerously, but it was only about the size of a car, nothing near Izuku's. The only way he'd lose was if he was careless. So, I take it you're the 𝗵𝗃𝗲𝗍𝗍 that took my cure 3 months ago. It's funny, back then I was going to let you off with a dash, 𝗲𝗏𝗃𝗁. 𝗲𝗏𝗃𝗁 spoke with a dangerous tone while sweating from the pressure being put on him, until Izuku spoke his name with a distorted yet clearly voice. The second he spoke his name, the pressure on 𝗲𝗏𝗃𝗁 increased by 10, and he felt that his life was about to get evicted, painfully. I'm giving you 10 seconds to save your pitiful existence. You will turn around and go home, forget about taking 𝗧𝗓𝗍𝗍, and pray that you never see me again. If you choose to go after 𝗧𝗓𝗍𝗍, I will kill you, and it will be slow and agonizing. Izuku spoke with the pressure on 𝗲𝗏𝗃𝗁 increasing even more with every word he spoke. Despite the pressure that was currently making it almost impossible to breathe, 𝗲𝗏𝗃𝗁 decided to test his luck. Why you? You took my cure. Give me back that curse dash, 𝗲𝗏𝗃𝗁 began, before Izuku and 𝗧𝗓𝗍𝗍 blurred out of existence, and in the very next moment, Izuku was standing in front of him with his hand on his head, and his eyes were shining a dangerous radioactive green. Time to die, Izuku said before he teleported 𝗲𝗏 himself and Eri to some other place. That day, 𝗲𝗏 disappeared from the face of the earth, and nobody knew where he went or what happened to him. Antarctica Izuku teleported with a green flash, scaring a snow fox that was near him. The rush of the -30°C air caused both Eri and 𝗲𝗏 to shiver uncontrollably. He threw 𝗲𝗏 a good 20 feet and watched as the man rolled and stumbled on the snow and ice. Izuku quickly opened up a portal back to his apartment, before walking through and carefully putting Eri on the couch. Don't worry, Eri, after today, you can forget the idea that that man will ever think of you. I promise you, you will never see that man again. Izuku said while smiling as Eri stopped crying and sniffles before picking up a blanket to warm up. Izuku chuckled before walking through the portal and facing the freezing temperatures with a blank face. Izuku quickly noticed that 𝗲𝗏 had picked himself up off the ground and was staring bewilderedly at the place he was in, not believing he was actually in Antarctica. Izuku stared at the man in front of him as he started to undergo the process of freezing. I used to fly here and train to resist the cold temperatures. To me, this isn't even too big of a change. I can stand here for days and not be bothered by it at all. You, on the other hand, will simply die after around 30 minutes from frostbite. Izuku said, catching his attention as 𝗲𝗏 glared harshly at him. Izuku activated Fly and started looking down on him, while finally deactivating Fighting Spirit. You think that I'll die from this place? I can easily escape here by turning water into ice and letting me drift out of here. And I don't have to worry about the cold. I can just reconstruct my limbs and body, and make the temperature hotter to last longer. 𝗲𝗏 said as he tried to prove his point by grabbing onto his right arm and trying to deconstruct it. He was surprised when his quirk didn't activate at all. What? He shouted, both in anger, fear, and impending doom. Oh, I know about that little trick of yours. It isn't disabled, not taken away from you. I destroyed your quirk. You'll never get it back, and your body will never leave this hellscape. Izuku explained while smirking at the now powerless villain as he started freaking out. What? How dare you? This world, this society needs me. I need to get back to the cure so I can fix this world of the hero mindset. 𝗲𝗏 screamed at Izuku. Izuku only responded by quickly flying at him and punching him in his chest. He could hear and feel 𝗲𝗏's bones break and internal bleeding spiked across his chest. Izuku watched almost satisfied as 𝗲𝗏 keeled over on his hands and knees as he coughed up blood, but it wasn't enough for him. He needed to make sure 𝗲𝗏 suffered as much as possible. After I teleport back home, I'm going to raid your building, arrest all of your goons, and then I'm going to burn it to the ground. All of your hard work and dedication, all of it will be destroyed. The only pity is that I won't be there to watch your face twist in horror as I burn it down. Izuku said before he grabbed 𝗲𝗏's hands and stepped on the back of his head and pushed him into the ground as he started pulling his arms backwards. Your quirk comes from your arms, and I don't want to make you think you have a quirk anymore, so I'm going to take away any signs that you could use your quirk. Izuku said as he used his strength to first pop the arms out of the socket, causing 𝗲𝗏 to shout in pain, before he pulled even harder and watched as the arms were ripped off of 𝗲𝗏 with a sickening sound of blood and bones being torn. Both of his arms were tossed aside on the icy floor, as 𝗲𝗏 screamed in absolute pain and agony. Izuku watched with a very pleasured satisfaction at what he was looking at though. Now that you realize how powerless you are, I think it's time I make you suffer, Izuku said before he activated Maelstrom and sent thousands of volts of electricity into 𝗲𝗏, who reacted by screaming even further. Izuku then decided to break his legs, so he stomped on both of them, which caused craters to form underneath them as 𝗲𝗏 screamed even more. Izuku decided to deactivate Maelstrom as 𝗲𝗏 was reduced to only crying and huffing in the pain from both the cold and his bodily injuries. Izuku smiled at his work before taking it even further. He activated myheroacademia and made it carry 𝗲𝗏 20 feet into the air before he was dropped down violently, causing blood to further leak from his arms and his ribs to be even more broken. Izuku was having the time of his life. Here was the 𝗵𝗃𝗲 that made Eri's life a living hell, and now he's going to die while experiencing 10 times the amount of Eri's pain. Izuku smiled at the damage he had done and decided to finish things off. He grabbed Overhaul's head and made him look into his eyes, as the only thing left of Overhaul's mask was torn off from his face. His eyes were leaking tears and blood poured out from his mouth in streaks, and Izuku almost felt pity for him. "I'll put you out of your misery," Izuku said before he activated Divine Flames, as fire spread all along Overhaul's body, while he screamed in enjoyable and deserved agony. Izuku decided to make him suffer even more, and made the flames colder and then hotter, making him freeze and burn in pain for his final moments. He kept him alive for 5 minutes, just watching the armless man screaming his pain out, unable to even get up, before he turned Divine Flames to maximum temperature and watched the man suffer a painful and brutal end, with fire making sure not even his ashes remain. Seeing his handiwork, Izuku smiled at the fact that Overhaul was gone without even a body to go into his casket. "With a quirk like yours, it's a shame you decided to use it for such a blatantly evil thing. Maybe if you just had a bit more humanity, then maybe Eri could have lived with you happily," Izuku said, slightly disappointed that a human being could fall so low. Izuku looked and saw that his flames slightly melted the ice, and also felt that the ice in Antarctica was a bit smaller than what it was last year. DMN global warming. Izuku cursed before activating Heavenly Ice as he unleashed a massive wave of freezing air all around him that swept through almost all of Antarctica's sky, only killing one poor bird still up. The wave of freezing air reached to the shore of Antarctica, and he saw that the ice was expanding rapidly and watched as Antarctica increased in size by about 15%. "I'll come back and steadily increase the size. I should probably do the same with the North Pole too," Izuku said before teleporting back to his apartment, where Eri was up and walking while trying to find him. The second she saw him teleport back, she immediately ran to him and jumped in his arms before bursting into tears. Izuku smiled brightly at her and hugged her back and said sweet soothing words to calm her down. "Shoo, it's okay. That man won't ever bother us again. It's okay, you won't ever see that man for the rest of your life," Izuku said softly. Eri sniffled before looking up at him with red eyes from crying while her lips were shaky. Where is he?" Eri asked while Izuku smiled at her before explaining. "I roughed him up by beating him up, and then I made him go live in Siberia. He won't ever come after you again. I destroyed his quirk," Izuku said, lying to Eri. Eri was a nice and kind-hearted child, more so than even he was when he was 4. If she learned that even Overhaul was killed because of her, she'd probably think that she was cursed again. Izuku hated seeing her cry, and hated even more when she called herself cursed. He couldn't let her know that Overhaul had died. "Eri, I'm so proud of you. You were brave throughout that entire time you were with him. I want you to know that you did absolutely nothing wrong. You aren't cursed, you aren't evil, you aren't a mistake, and you are loved. I want you to know, having you as my little sister is the greatest honor of my life," Izuku said, causing Eri to cry even more, as she buried herself into Izuku's chest. Izuku smiled as he hugged her more and rubbed her back. He did this until she passed out from the mental exhaustion and tiredness of the past hour. Izuku smiled lovingly at her before he picked her up and carried her to his room. He laid her down in his bed before tucking her in, watching as she slept. Izuku walked out of the room before making 2 phone calls. The phone rang twice before it was picked as he heard shuffling on the other end. "𝗎𝗲𝗓, sorry to wake you up, I came to see how you are doing," Izuku said as 𝗎𝗲𝗓 smiled from the other end. "I'm great. Last night was amazing. I can't believe you and I are dating right now. Is something wrong? You sound a tad bit stressed," 𝗎𝗎𝗓 said before asking. "She can tell I'm stressed from a phone call. She must really like me. Yes. I can't explain over the phone, but can you come here? Eri needs someone other than me right now, and I also need to make a call with Nizu." Izuku thought while smiling before he asked her. "Sure. I'm coming right now after I get ready," 𝗎𝗎𝗓 said before hanging up. Izuku smiled at her antics before making another call. It picked up after the first ring. "Hey Nizu. I have something I wanted to ask of you." Izuku started as Nizu smiled from the other side. "What is this request, and depending on what it is, I might do so," Nizu said and asked. I realize that my apartment isn't safe for me and my sister, so I wanted to ask you what your thoughts are on building a dorm building for all the students and staff. Izuku explained. Funny that you say that, that was what I was going to ask the last time you were in my office. I think it's a wonderful idea. The students would be much closer to school grounds and therefore protecting them will be a whole lot easier, and with the staff having dorms too, it'll be even easier at nighttime. However, if these dorms are being built, I'm guessing that you will have some special conditions. Nizu explained before guessing. Izuku chuckled at the keen intellect the principal had before going on. Yes. I want every dorm room to come with a mini fridge, a toilet, a shower, a sink, a mini kitchen, and enough room to house 3 people. Additionally, each dorm building should also come with a main kitchen, a main lobby, a study room, and a training room. Izuku named off. With our current funds, that should cost us no problem. I can have 𝗵𝗲𝗃 take the week off to get the dorms done. We have 11 classes per year, so 33 dorm buildings shouldn't be too much to cover. Nizu said. If you need any money, I can pitch in some. I have a lot of money to spare. Izuku offered, but he heard Nizu laughing on the other side. No thanks, UA needs to build its own dorms. Teachers' paychecks and the bills are one thing, but building costs are another. Nizu said, to which Izuku agreed. Well then that's all. I'll see you when the dorms are built so I can move in. Izuku said. Nizu agreed before he ended the call. Izuku sighed before he decided to check on Eri, and saw that she was still sleeping away. He loved looking at her peaceful face as she snores cutely. He watched her for a few more minutes before he heard the door to the apartment unlock and open. He closed the door and was met with 𝗵𝗲𝗄𝗧𝗔𝗪 walking in. Before she could say anything, Izuku walked up to her and kissed her mouth while holding her, which she returned in kind. After they held it for a good 2 seconds, they backed away from each other and Izuku led her to the couch. What's going on with Eri? Is something wrong between you two? 𝗵𝗲𝗄𝗧𝗔𝗪 asked worriedly while putting her hands on his shoulders. Izuku smiled before explaining what happened today. So, 𝗲𝗏𝗃, who was Eri's abuser that you told me about before, came back, kidnapped Eri, got tracked down by you and Hawks, you then caught up to them and teleported Eri back here before teleporting 𝗲𝗏𝗃 to Antarctica, killed 𝗲𝗏𝗃 while torturing him, and then came back here? 𝗵𝗲𝗄𝗧𝗔𝗪 re-explained the events of the morning while having a blank look in her eyes. Yeah. Izuku confirmed again. Aizu, it's 7:15 a.m. 𝗵𝗲𝗄𝗧𝗔𝗪 said with a deadpan tone. Aizu. Izuku asked as he had never even been given a nickname that was positive. The only nickname that he did have in his life was Deku, and he had terrible memories of that name with his former family and friends. Being called a nickname with positive intention was weird for Izuku, though he strangely liked it since 𝗵𝗲𝗄𝗧𝗔𝗪 was calling him that. I came up with it since Mirio said that couples usually have nicknames that they call each other. It's supposed to be cute and loving. Do you not like it? 𝗵𝗲𝗄𝗧𝗔𝗪 explained and asked. No, it's cute and all, it's just that I've never been called a nickname that was supposed to be positive. If you're gonna call me Aizu, then I should call you Blue Lily. Izuku said in thought. I love it. Anyway, back on topic, what do you need me to do for Eri? 𝗵𝗲𝗄𝗧𝗪 exclaimed before asking. Yeah, I need you to help Eri smile again. I need her to know that everyone that she loves also loves her back. Can you please help me show love to Eri? Izuku asked. You don't have to ask, I'd be happy to do so, 𝗵𝗲𝗄𝗧𝗪 said. Minutes later Eri woke up while rubbing her eyes, getting the sleep out of her eyes. She noticed that her big brother wasn't with her, so she got scared and got up to go find him. She rushed into the living room and was relieved to see both her big brother and her big sister. They both turned to her and smiled as Eri rushed to give Izuku a hug. Eri, can I have a hug too? 𝗵𝗲𝗄𝗧𝗪 asked while giggling at the adorable sight. Eri just turned to her and buried herself into her chest, which 𝗵𝗲𝗄𝗧𝗪 returned by bear hugging her. There Eri. Me and Aizu are here for you. 𝗵𝗲𝗄𝗧𝗪 cooed as Izuku joined in on the hug. Eri was enjoying being hugged by the most important people in her life, and she loved the fact that both her big siblings decided to stay with her. Hey Eri, I'm glad that you're still here with me and Aizu, 𝗵𝗲𝗄𝗧𝗪 said as she put Eri even further into her chest. Eri's eyes immediately filled with tears as she cried, while 𝗵𝗲𝗄𝗧𝗪 and Izuku just smiled and held her with them on the couch. "Hey, Eri, can you give me and Izuku a smile?" 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗏 asked while smiling at Eri, who merely looked at her with teary eyes before she wiped her tears. She closed her eyes and gave them her biggest smile she could conjure. Izuku and 𝗵𝗲𝗏 were both happy that she finally smiled again. "Thanks a lot, Snowball. An angel's smile is always priceless," Izuku said as he also smiled with 𝗵𝗲𝗏. 1 week later, UA grounds everyone in Class 1A stood outside of their newly built dorm building. Just by looking at it, it was incredibly large, with 6 stories, a large common room, a large kitchen, a large training ground just outside, a large laundry room, a study room, and a large restroom for both genders. Aizawa stood outside with the students and was going to explain what was going on. As you can see, due to the attack on USJ, 𝗍𝗔 decided to finally implement a dorm system for each of the classes for each year. There's 33 dorm buildings exactly like this one that was built with 𝗍𝗔's design and 𝗬𝗵𝗃𝗧's work. Inside, there's a common room, kitchen, laundry room, study room, and main restroom area. There is a training ground just outside with a swimming pool, fighting arena, and plenty of dummies for practice. Keep in mind that you're only allowed into the training ground between 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., though you can use it outside of those hours with my permission. Aizawa began explaining as he led everybody into the building, as everyone was in awe at what they were seeing and hearing. There are 6 stories. The first holds the laundry room, restroom, main kitchen, and common room. The rest are for housing students, as each floor has 5 rooms, 2 on each side and 1 at the end of the hallway. Each room comes with a bed, window, balcony, restroom with a sink, shower, and toilet, a fridge, mini kitchen with a stove and microwave, and it should have enough room for 3 people to live there no problem. Aizawa listed off, as each of the students were in shock and amazement at what Aizawa had just told them. 3 people. Me and Katsumi can live in Izuku's room. Shoka thought with wide eyes while smiling at Izuku and Katsumi. If both me and Shoka can live with Izuku, then he'll grow to love us eventually. Katsumi thought while smiling and looking at Izuku and Shoka. I need to introduce everyone to Eri, and probably tell everyone my relationship with her and 𝗍𝗧𝗏. Izuku thought while wondering how he'll break it to his 2 obsessed fiancés. These people will be on each floor. Keep in mind that you can bring anyone you want into your dorm room for as long as you want, so long as you talk it out with me or 𝗍𝗧𝗏. However, these are your rooms to do with as you please. Aizawa said, raising Shoka and Katsumi's hopes even more. ND floor, Minoru Mineta, Rikido Sato, Mizo Shuji, and Kuji Koda. RD floor, Izumi Yagi, Katsumi Bakugou, Shoka Todoroki, Shoto Todoroki, and Katsuki Bakugou. TH floor, Denki Kaminari, Kyoka Jiro, Ochako Uraraka, Tenya Ida, and Yuga Oyama. TH floor, Masahiro Ojiro, Toru Hagakure, Hantasiro, and Momo Yaoyorozu. TH floor, Izuku Shimura, Mina Ishido, Eijiro Kirishima, Tsuyu Azui, and 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗧𝗏 Tokoyami. I'm 3 floors away from my husband. This is bullshit. Shoka and Katsumi thought angrily as they were about to voice their thoughts until Aizawa said some more information. By the way, you will all remain in this structure for the rest of your 3 years here, just in different buildings. You cannot change any of these arrangements in any way, shape, or form unless there is an immediate emergency. Aizawa said, crushing Katsumi and Shoka's question before they even got out of their mouths. Another thing, you all can bring family and friends into the dorm temporarily without our permission. They can stay for up to 3 days, but if they are coming to live with you, then you need 𝗍𝗧𝗏 or mine's permission. They also need your express and written permission to give to me or 𝗍𝗧𝗏 as proof. Aizawa explained further, getting most of the class to get excited. How can I get 𝗍𝗧𝗏's written permission when he hates our guts? I'll have to find a way to get him into my room. Shoka thought, frustrated. How can I get into his room? Maybe if I tempt him with my body. He'll just think that I'm a slut. I'll have to get into his room with a good and justified reason. Katsumi thought while being annoyed. Good thing I got 𝗍𝗧𝗏's permission before I checked out of our apartment. Izuku thought to himself. He checked out of his apartment yesterday, and he and Eri spent the night at 𝗍𝗧𝗏's house. Anyway, you all are free to roam around and check out your dorms and your rooms. I trust that while I'm gone nothing will happen. Remember, school times are normal like always, so be up and ready by 8:30. Aizawa said before leaving to go get some more sleep. The class all went inside while two people thought about how they'll get into someone's room. Guys, they got an oven and 2 fridges and freezers. Kaminari yelled from the kitchen. The TV is perfect for gaming and shows, so we can all do some good old-fashioned class bonding. Hanta said while looking at the common room TV. These seats are so comfy. I can feel the softness of them and I could fall asleep on them. Toru said while jumping on the furniture in the common room. The pool is just right, it's got enough chlorine and the temperature is just right. Fuyu said already swimming in the pool, somehow getting into her swimwear without anyone seeing her do so. Why are the restrooms separated by gender? This is an offense. Mineta screamed while crying tears of BLD, getting all of the girls to glare harshly at him. The training ground is definitely manly. Kirishima said while already punching some dummies. The study room has plenty of books and pieces of literature to get into, plus the air in the room is perfect for focusing. Yaoyorozu said while reading some books. The laundry room has got 10 washers and 10 dryers. I wonder where the towels are. Mizo asked to himself while in the laundry room. Hey everyone, we should do a room competition. We each have 1 hour to set up our rooms and make it look the coolest, and then we each tour each of our rooms. The one who gets voted by most of the class wins. Mina said. Ready and go. Mina said as everyone rushed to go get their rooms set up. This is a chance that I can impress 𝗧𝗵𝗧𝗏. Katsumi and Shoka both thought at the same time. Hour later, alright, let's start with the second floor. Mina yelled as they all were in the second floor. Wanna come see what I got in my room? Mineta said creepily as everyone collectively walked right past his room. This is my room, I got myself some baking appliances. Rikido said. It had a dash of personality to it. Mina said before continuing to Shuji's room. Mine's pretty barren. Shuji said as they walked in, only to see a desk and a bed. Yeah, that's pretty boring. Next room. Mina said as they all went to Kuji's room. Pretty nice. It's got the right amount of personality in it. Next floor. Mina shouted. My room is pretty embarrassing. Izumi said as her entire room was decorated in All Might merchandise. I see she still looks up to him despite what happened. Izuku thought in slight annoyance, since it wouldn't be too impossible for him to still be like Izumi. Well, it's a tad bit extreme, but oh well. Next room. Mina said as she was shocked that someone had that much of an obsession. My room took a second, but it was worth it. Shoka said showing her room was an old traditional Japanese style. It's pretty incredible that you pulled it off. Very nice. Mina said. Shoka smiled while looking at Izuku, only for him to not even pay attention to the room and look away while being bored of it all. Shoka was immediately saddened and looked down while wondering how to get Izuku to look at her again. Mine's pretty much the same as my sister's. Shoto said as a duplicate of Shoka's room was shown. Huh, kinda creepy that you twins think identical. Next room. Mina said going to Katsuki's room. Though they were stopped by the now angry Pomeranian. No way in hell. Go check someone else's room, I'm not even competing. He yelled as Mina sighed before moving on to Katsumi's room. Pretty good don't you think? Katsumi yelled showing a room with an orange bed and green blinds, with some books and a computer and some posters showing various heroes. Pretty nice. It's got a lot of personality and even more of a nice competitive vibe to it. Mina answered. Izuku, please appreciate my room. Katsumi thought while looking towards Izuku, only to be disappointed to see that he was only looking at his phone, and she looked down while trying not to cry. Next room. Mina yelled as they went up another floor. My room is pretty average, but I like it. Kaminari said while showing off his room. Huh, it's actually pretty good. It's got a cool vibe to it and it has a lot of things packed into it. Next room. Mina complimented as they moved to the next room. Mine's pretty much a classic punk style. Jiro said while showing her room. It's pretty nice. It's got a musical taste and it has a very nice color theme. Next room. Mina complimented as Jiro smiled in relief that nobody thought she was weird. Mine's nothing special, sorry if it's boring. 𝗬𝗧𝗧𝗏 said as she showed a pretty boring but alright room. It's nothing to write home about, but it's still alright. Next room. Mina said as they moved on to their class president. There is absolutely nothing out of the ordinary here as you can see. Ida said while chopping the air in front of him. Two book smart ol. Next room. Mina said depressed with not having anything interesting to learn about Ida. My room is definitely the shiniest. Aoyama said as everyone was blinded by how shiny his room was. It's definitely something. Next room. Mina said quickly after a long silence. My room is pretty normal, but it's just how I like it. Ojiro said as he showcased a normal-looking room. Wow, it really is normal, but it's fine. Next room. Mina said while skipping to Tori's room. Mine's pretty girly. She said as she rubbed her cheek, though only Izuku knew she was doing that. It's so pretty. It's just fine, girl. Next room. Mina shouted wanting to see the rich girl's room. My room didn't get me much to work with, it is only the size of my closet. Momo said showing her room, which was mostly her bed. This is the size of your closet. The bed's way too big. You know what, let's go on. Mina shouted before calming down and moving on, leaving a blushing Momo. Mine is pretty neat, nothing boring but nothing out of the ordinary. Siro said while showing his room. It's actually quite nice. Nothing bad, but it is kinda interesting. Next floor. Mina said getting over Momo's room. My room's manly. Kirishima yelled showing his room with a large toothy smile. Very macho. I love it. Next up, my room. Mina said getting Kirishima to blush. Mine's pretty CC, isn't it? Mina yelled showing her room, which Mineta tried to get into, only for Izuku to use black WP to tie him down. It's pretty cool, but my room's next. Karosuyu said showing everyone to her room. I love frogs a lot. She said showing a green bed, blue carpet and blinds, a black dresser with a mirror, a ton of hung-up swimsuits, and a painting of a frog on her wall. Ah, it's adorable. Now to check out the edgelord of our class. Mina said giving a teasing smirk towards Tokoyami. Revelry in the dark. He announced showing his room. Emo. Now, let's see the pro hero of this class. Mina said giving Tokoyami the cold shoulder. My room is pretty alright. Come on in. Izuku said leading everyone, unfortunately including his former sister and her friends, into his room. It was a room with dark green walls with white curtains, with a black desk with his work computer and a TV just above it on the wall. He also had a light green bed with black pillows and another bed with red pillow sheets and a white blanket. The most notable feature of his room was the hundreds of notes tacked onto a large board just on the wall to the left of the balcony. I'm glad you're still a nerd, but who is staying in the bed? Izumi, Shoka, and Katsumi all thought while looking at the notes around, but angrily at the second bed. Are you some sort of detective? Mina asked curiously at all the notes on the board. I sometimes have to solve hero cases at home, that's what the board is for. Izuku answered. What's with the second bed? You got a girlfriend, bro? Kirishima asked excitedly at the end. I do have a girlfriend, but the bed is for my little sister. She'll be at the dorms in about 2 minutes. Izuku said, breaking the hearts of Katsumi, Shoka, and Izumi in a single sentence. Brother, you better be kidding about the girlfriend part. Katsuki and Shoto both thought angrily while seeing their sisters almost crying. I'll force that slot to break up with him. He's supposed to be with me and Katsumi. Shoka thought angrily while trying not to cry. Whoever this girl is, I'll prove that I'm more attractive than her with my body. Then Izuku will dump her and be with me and Shoka. Katsumi thought angrily getting ready to stuck Izuku. Izuku, that bed should have been for me. Whoever Eri is, I'll force her to leave you alone. Izumi thought angrily swearing mentally at Eri. Wow Izubro, that's great. I get to meet your sister, but how about your girlfriend? He asked excited to meet both his friend's sister and girlfriend. My girlfriend is bringing my sister here, so you'll meet both of them. Izuku said while smiling at the thought of the two girls. We'll separate him from this slot and his fake sister whenever they get here. Izumi, Shoka, and Katsumi all thought collectively. In Nisa's office, same time, so, let me get this straight. Even though Izuku is already a pro hero, Well, on his way to becoming a top-ranking hero, having his own agency and team-ups, you want him to specifically become your sidekick. Nizu asked while rubbing his eyes, having a headache midway through his sentence. Yes. All Might and Inko both said at the same time. Oh. Why? They shouted. They were wanting to connect with their estranged son, and the only way that they could was through hero work. It was their only shared interest. Like I just said, he's his own hero and his own identity. Not only that, but if he were seen with you too, people would do everything to get at you by hurting him. Though those that tried would all fail miserably, you'd still be nothing more than a burden to your son. Nizu yelled at them, getting a migraine. But we can protect him and offer him plenty of wisdom and teachings. Not only that, but he's on his own. He needs somebody to watch him while he works. Inko yelled at Nizu, who was just tired of the conversation. Izuku has a girlfriend who is a part of the current big three, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗄. She's almost as strong as Ryukyu, and she hasn't even tapped into her upper limits yet. She's more than capable of covering for him while in the field, and that's not even including Hawks, Eraserhead, and even Ryukyu herself. And if it's emotionally speaking, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 and his little sister, Eri, more than keep Izuku happy, much more than you or your daughter and her friends anyway. Nizu said, hoping that they'd just leave him alone. Sir, where is this 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 and Eri? We need to speak with them. All Might said while Nizu immediately noticed the dangerous tone in All Might's voice. If you're thinking of hurting them or separating them from Izuku, I guarantee you that you'll have a lot more than Izuku to deal with. Nizu said in a very threatening tone. I'm a good liar, I'm a very good liar. With my connections to Japan's government, just think about what I can do to both of your careers. Hell, I can release all the evidence from Aldra Elementary School and ruin Endeavor's masterpieces and the Bakugou twins' hero careers before they even begin. Nizu said, getting All Might and Inko to both widen their eyes. It's funny to me, you punished Izuku's teachers and other bullies, but never the big fishes that did the most damage. I happened to get to the tapes before you ever did. I've been holding this and more evidence out on you without you even knowing it. Imagine what the public would do once they learned the daughter of their symbol of peace drove her own brother to run away from her bullying. Nizu said while All Might and Inko both stopped in their tracks at the thought of their daughter. Izuku has shown himself to be a good person and a more than worthy hero. If you take away his two lifelines, not only will you have the strongest person on the planet, your son, actively hunting you down to kill you, but you'll also never have the opportunity to see your precious daughter or her friends become heroes. And believe me when I say I will help Izuku when the time comes. Nizu said, making it crystal clear as to whose side he was taking. Sighing, Nizu continued to answer the question. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 and Eri Shimura are coming to Class 1A's dorm building pretty soon, just don't blame me for the consequences of what you cause. Thanks. All Might said before taking Inko to go find the dorm building to confront their son. Toshiwi, we have to think about what we can do. Inko yelled as All Might pulled her. What's there to think about? It's just as you said. All Might yelled as Inko's eyes widened, realizing what her husband was talking about. Eri is the key to Izuku, so if we get her on our side, then Izuku will be on our side. All Might said as Inko nodded and went to go try and find Eri. Back with 1A, how could you not tell me you had a girlfriend? Aren't I your friend? Mina yelled while fake crying in front of Izuku, who watched while smiling amusedly. I've known her for 3 months, and I've started dating her only a week ago. Sorry I didn't text you about it, but at least you can meet her in person. Izuku said while smiling softly. And what about your little sister, why didn't you tell me about her, huh? Mina asked angrily. You never asked. Izuku said plainly, causing her to P&D his chest, yelling meanie. Everyone got quiet when they heard the doorbell ring, and they all came down to see 2 people. The first person that entered caused every boy in the class aside from Aoyama to blush at. She was wearing the UA student uniform and it made her chest bust out more. She also had a feminine air to her and long legs and a pretty face. All of it caused Kaminari to get a nosebleed, Mineta to cry BLD, and all the girls, especially Shoka and Katsumi, to get incredibly jealous. There's no way her chest is natural. Every girl in 1A thought. This bitch is dating my husband. I'll kill this blueberry slot. Katsumi and Shoka thought while glaring at her. The second person was a little girl with whitish silver hair with red eyes. She wore a red dress with a backpack while carrying a plushy version of Izuku in his disaster costume. She also had an adorable face and was cutely hiding behind 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗪's legs. This brat is Izuku's little sister. Getting him back will be easier than I thought if she's this scared and anxious. Izumi thought angrily and confidently as she stared at Eri, who was still scared. Before anyone could say anything, 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗪 picked up Eri before running over to Izuku and giving him a kiss on the lips. Everyone in the class stopped what they were doing as they all looked at them. Shoka and Katsumi were about to blow a fuse, and Izumi was mad because Eri was hugging Izuku's leg while looking up at him. After 4 seconds, they separated and Izuku picked Eri up and put her on his back. Everybody aside from Izumi and her crew were blushing red, except for Mineta, who was crying tears of 𝗵𝗃𝗲𝗄𝗧𝗪. Did you really have to kiss me like that in front of everybody? Izuku asked while smiling a lot. Of course I did. I wanted everyone to know that we're a couple. 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗪 said while smiling brightly. Hey, big brother, can I see your room? Eri asked while laying her head on Izuku's. Before Izuku could say anything, Mina and Toru squealed loudly at Eri's cuteness and ran over to her and Izuku, only to stop when they saw Eri looking at them anxiously, which made Izuku glare at them very dangerously. Eri is a little scared of new people and very anxious about people in general. No loud noises, and if you scare her, I'll do much more than just scare you. Izuku said, causing most of the class to question if he was warning them or threatening them. Sorry, Mina and Toru both said at the same time. Izuku sighed before putting Eri down, with her quickly hiding behind his legs. Eri, these are my friends. Izuku said, feeling weird that he was calling one a friends. Hello there, cutie. I'm myheroacademia, and I'm real good friends with your big brother. Can you come give me a hug? Mina asked while opening her arms. Eri was hesitant at first, but with a gentle smile from her brother, she slowly walked to Mina and accepted her hug. Mina was pretty loving as she squeezed her and hugged her for about 14 seconds. Ah, you're just so precious. Mina cried out after Eri left her embrace. Pretty soon, most of the girls except for Izumi, Shoka, and Katsumi were surrounding her trying to get to know her. Izuku was going to pick her up, but Eri was nervously smiling and answering some of the girls' questions, so Izuku decided to just watch her contently. Shimura, you 𝗲𝗲𝗪𝗧𝗪. Mineta yelled while running up to him and gripping at his collar as he was bleeding from the nose and eyes. How the hell did you get a hottie like her to date you? Tell me your secrets or let me bang her. Just on dash, Mineta screamed at him before Izuku punched him into the wall, knocking him out and giving him some serious injuries. Talk badly about 𝗵𝗲𝗪𝗧𝗪. I will hurt you even more than I hurt Mineta. Izuku said, glaring at the boys of the classroom, as each one of them, except for Kirishima, held their tongue trying not to make degrading comments of her. So, you're Izubro's girlfriend. I can tell that you're hella manly. Kirishima said to 𝗵𝗲𝗪𝗧𝗪 while smiling wildly. 𝗵𝗲𝗪𝗧𝗪 looked at him puzzled by his comment. But, I'm a girl and most people consider me to be pretty girly. Why do you call me manly? 𝗵𝗲𝗪𝗧𝗪 asked curiously. I'm calling you that as a compliment. He really loves you and you both have a loving relationship that you both aren't afraid to show, so it's manly. Kirishima elaborated. Well, thank you. 𝗵𝗲𝗪𝗧𝗪 said while smiling, getting every boy to blush as they saw her smile. I think she's the one for me. Katsuki and Shoto both thought while blushing wildly at seeing her smile. They looked towards Izuku and saw that he was picking up Eri, so he didn't see them blush. Brother, I want to see your room, Eri said while cutely pouting at Izuku. Izuku chuckled while rubbing her hair before taking her upstairs through the elevator, with 𝗵𝗲𝗪𝗧𝗪 right behind him. The second the elevator closed, the class started talking about 𝗵𝗲𝗪𝗧𝗪 and Eri. She was so adorable. I could just die while holding her. Mina said, squealing with Toru. Can't believe Izuku scored someone like her. She's appealing. She's way out of our league. Kaminari said while tending to Mineta, who was still crying. The class was in for another surprise when All Might and Green Tornado entered the building. Izumi, Bakugou twins, Todoroki twins, we need to talk to you all, Inko said, ushering the group to follow her and All Might. They led the group outside behind the training ground to talk quietly. We just got done with talking with Nizu, and, unfortunately, our hands are tied with trying to get Izuku to be our sidekick. Nizu has blackmail on all of us and is on Izuku's side, so we can't force him like we thought we could, so we'll just have to convince him the long way. All Might said, getting the group to be mad. He has a girlfriend and a little sister that he loves more than he ever showed us. His girlfriend has bigger melons but then me and Shoka combined, and she has this good-looking face. I can't believe I'm saying this, but compared to her, we're ugly. Katsumi said, getting Shoka to nod angrily. The girl just showed up out of nowhere and kissed our husband, before saying they were a couple. Not only that, but she instantly got the entire class on her side in just a few minutes. She's a slut that Izuku shouldn't even look at. Shoka said while glaring at the ground. It doesn't matter, she can be ignored for now. That white-haired brat is claiming my brother is her big brother, and yet Izuku doesn't even acknowledge me. That brat goes first. Izumi yelled while remembering that face Eri made while looking up at Izuku. Actually, we need to talk about Eri. Look, we've been thinking of ways to get Izuku on our side, and we think that Eri is the only one that can make it that way. We don't trust 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 with his happiness, that's specifically for Shoka and Katsumi, but we can get Eri to love and listen to us and then make her tell Izuku to listen to us. All Might explained. Izumi, I know that you may not like this, but it really is the only way it'll work. After Eri is on our side, Izuku will dump his girlfriend when Eri tells him to, and he'll come back to Shoka and Katsumi. After that, we can adopt her and just let Izuku take care of her, or, if we're lucky, Izuku will just get rid of her once Izumi replaces her. Then, things will finally go back to normal. Inko explained their plan. Izumi looked down before sighing loudly at what she was agreeing with. Fine, I'll try and get Eri on our side, but afterwards, I'm getting Izuku to throw her to the curb. Izumi said while getting a frown on her face. I have another idea on how to get Izuku on our side. What if we make 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 cheat on him and he'll be heartbroken, then my sister and Shoka can comfort him and get him to forget about her. Katsuki said with a smile. Me and Katsuki can stuck 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 to get with one of us, and when that happens, Izuku will hate her forever, and Eri won't be able to comfort him at all. This can get my sister, Katsumi, and Izumi to comfort him, and Izumi will be his little sister again, and Izuku will be with the women that actually cares about him. Shoto said while hoping he could have SEC with 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏. But won't he also hate you or Katsuki? I can't let my husband hate his brother-in-laws. Shoka said, getting Katsuki and Shoto to smile at their sister. Don't worry, he'll forgive us and forget about her eventually altogether. We should at least give it a try. Shoto said, which got All Might to look down. I think it's the only way to completely get him back. We'll try seducing 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 first, and if that fails, then we'll get Eri on our side. I hope you're right about Izuku forgiving you though. All Might said, getting Katsuki and Shoto to smile widely. Just make sure to stuck her into having SEC with one or both of you. If we get her to cheat on Izuku, then we'll definitely get Izuku back with us. Inko said, getting Katsuki and Shoto to both nod at their aunt. Katsuki and Shoto talked with the group on how they could stuck 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏, with the rest of the group giving tips on how they could. This all happened without them even knowing that Izuku heard their entire conversation while he was helping Eri get settled into the room. His hatred towards his former family and friends skyrocketed, and he swore that the second Shoto or Katsuki tried anything, he'd send them to the same day as last chapter 8:24 p.m., Izuku's room. Just so you know, Katsuki and Shoto are planning to get you to cheat on me, Izuku said as he was cuddling with 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 on his bed. Eri was passed out on her bed and dozing off, while he and 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 were just cuddling with each other while listening to some music. Why would I cheat on you? 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 asked him while putting her head into his chest and listening to his heartbeat. They think they can stuck you so I'll be heartbroken and get with their sisters. Can't believe I'm saying this, but I never expected them to fall that low. Izuku said while looking at the ceiling. They're nothing more than who can't see that I don't care about them. I'll show them. We both love each other and there isn't anything they can do to stop that. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 said angrily, though quietly, as to not wake up Eri. Didn't know you were this feisty. It's cute though. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you're not the type to cheat on me, and I know that I'll never cheat on you, Izuku said while holding her close and smiling at her. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 smiled back before changing positions slightly. Now, Izuku's head was in between her bosom and she was putting her hands through his hair and making sure he stayed there. You know, your hair is really fluffy and soft. It's nice to just hold, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 said, which got Izuku to blush at both the position and the compliment. Anyway, what are you going to do about them? 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 asked curiously. Nothing really. I'll only step in when they try and force you to do something, so just reject the both of them, and when they take it too far, I'll step in and beat them up, Izuku told her while taking in her scent. That sounds fine with me. Just make sure that you don't kill them. I don't want you to have to deal with murder charges other than overhauls. Actually, what did you do with overhaul's group, Shai Hisaikai? 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 said before asking, remembering what Izuku told her a week ago. I had Hawks earn his paycheck. He showed up and single-handedly raided the place and gave plenty of evidence to the police about the illegal drag development lab inside the compound. All of the 8 precepts of death were arrested and are being held in top security prisons with over 2 decades worth of serving time. There was also the old leader of the Shai Hisaikai that was put into a hospital till he wakes up, Izuku said while enjoying the position. That's good. What should we do tomorrow? 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 asked excitedly as she was pushing Izuku further into her chest. All that she got were muffled sounds, so she decided to take Izuku out of her chest, much to both of their disappointment. Honestly, I have no plans. I've checked on all of my businesses and they're actually pretty good right now. I'm not needed with hero work, as Hawks is currently doing a lot more, and I can do so later. I was planning on talking with Nizu about the plans for the school, but that's 3 days away. I'm free for the rest of this week, so I was hoping to just spend it all with you and Eri, Izuku said while looking into her eyes while smiling. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 smiled brightly before bringing him into a searing kiss, which he returned in kind. They kept it up for about 10 long seconds before letting up for air. Maybe we can just stay here for a while, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 said before putting his head into her chest and getting them both under the covers. After 2 minutes, the warmth from the blanket and the embrace made both heroes fall asleep in bliss. Next morning, 8 a.m. Izuku woke up feeling an incredibly soft feeling around his entire head. He opened his eyes and was met with the fabric of pajamas he was accustomed to since 5 days ago. Ever since his 3rd date with 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏, he'd have her spend the night with him in his bed and they'd go to sleep together. Most people would think that it was moving too fast, but Izuku and 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 just grew to like sleeping together since they held each other throughout the entire process, giving them much more comfort than normal. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏's father was more than accepting of it. He knew that Izuku wasn't doing anything indecent with her, and Izuku made that apparently clear when he told the man himself. Izuku separated himself from 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏's hold, getting her to mmm and pout while in her sleep. Izuku just smiled and blushed at how close she was. She really loves my presence that much. I can't believe that she can feel me in her sleep, Izuku thought to himself. He removed himself from the bed carefully while making sure not to wake up 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏, before he looked at the time and decided on what to do. I should probably get both of them up. I don't have school, but 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 and Eri do. I'll make them some breakfast real quick and get them up whenever it's ready, Izuku thought to himself. Izuku managed to teleport all the food and other items from his apartment into his pocket dimension and then into the dorm room, so there was plenty of food. Making some simple eggs with French toast, he made sure to do so as quietly as possible. The cooking noises didn't wake the 2 sleeping princesses up, though the smell of the food definitely did. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 woke up with her hair all disheveled and slightly wild, and looked sleepily at her boyfriend still cooking. Eri woke up similarly, though once she saw it was Izuku that was cooking, she went back under the covers and just watched him. Once 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 fully woke up, she walked over to Izuku and put her arms around him before giving a kiss on his neck. Izuku put down the plate of eggs before turning and giving 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 a kiss on the lips, one that lasted a good 5 seconds. After they ended it, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 snuggled up to his chest before closing her eyes and just enjoying his arms around hers. I made breakfast, I hope you like eggs, Izuku said while putting his chin on her head. I'll eat once I get enough of this hug, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 mumbled while snuggling more into Izuku. Izuku smiled before picking her up and carrying her back to bed while using black 𝗬𝗍𝗍 to make him, 𝗧𝗪𝙢𝙢𝙢𝐴, and 𝗧𝗍𝗧 a plate to eat. He got in bed with her while he got the food on his right before he put her to his left while still having most of her body on top of him. He gave her his food while giving 𝗧𝗪𝗧 hers and just talking with them. 𝗧𝗪𝗧 was excited to go back to school, since she hadn't seen Kota in 2 weeks, until last Friday. He looked really sad and pretty angry and annoyed, so she wanted to talk to him and help him any way she could. Izuku told her to ask him if he needed a hero to help him, and 𝗧𝗪𝗧 cutely promised she'd tell him about Izuku being Disaster and her big brother. 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗏 meanwhile was excited about doing more hero studies. She finished her high school level classes, and was focused mostly on starting up a quirk research center in order to better help people control and grasp their quirks on a fundamental basis. She told Izuku that she wanted to get a degree in quirkology and start that business to help people, which Izuku promised he'd help her accomplish that goal. Izuku told her how he wanted to rise to the top of the hero world as the #1 hero of the world and help the entire world, while supplying heroes with support equipment and gear that he'd invent to better help them out. 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗏 told him that she'd help him out by being his first sponsored hero for free. After they ate breakfast, Izuku kissed 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗏 passionately before taking 𝗧𝗪𝗧 and teleporting them to her school, with 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗏 behind blushing. Soon though, she noted the time and saw that she needed to head off to UA. Making her way downstairs, she was met with most of the class sitting at the table while eating breakfast, though Momo and Ito weren't there, as Momo was in the common room drinking tea, while Ito was nowhere to be seen. "Good morning everybody. Where is that blue-haired engine guy?" 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗏 asked, making herself known to everyone. She liked seeing the reactions of the class as most of them looked to her and smiled. Though she immediately noticed the fact that Izumi Yagi, her boyfriend's former sister, Shoka Todoroki, her boyfriend's former crush, and Katsumi Bakugou, her boyfriend's former friend, were all looking at her with scowls or glares. 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗏 didn't mind though, as she didn't really care about them. What she did care about though, were the two perverted staring at her while drooling and looking stupid. Katsuki Bakugou and Shoto Todoroki were both staring at her body stupidly as she stood there, with blushes on their cheeks. Disgusting, they aren't even looking at my face. Only Izuku can look at me like that. 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗏 thought to herself angrily and disgusted. She got tired of their staring and quickly walked out of their view as Momo answered her question. "Ida is on his morning warm-up run, he'll be at school," Mano answered after drinking her tea. "That's cool, I'm heading over there now. By the way, Izuku left to go do hero work just a minute ago," 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗏 said, heading out of the door to walk to school. Most of Class 1A thanked her and said goodbye right before she left, and continued eating their breakfast food before getting ready themselves. Meanwhile though, Katsuki and Shoto were both thinking greedily to themselves about the information that 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗏 just told them. With Izuku gone, me and Shoto can show our interest in her. With my cool quirk and my good looks, she'll forget about Izuku faster than her panties coming down. Katsuki thought to himself while thinking about what he'd do to 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗏. With brother gone, I can show off my natural charm and steal her away. With my handsome looks and my powerful quirk, not to mention my father being Endeavor, I'll definitely be able to get in bed with her. Shoto thought while blushing at being able to stuck 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗏. At UA, 12:36 p.m. 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗏 stood in the cafeteria as she had just gotten her lunch and was looking for a place to sit. Mirio was with Sir Night Eye currently while Tamaki called in sick, so she was by herself. She decided to just sit on the roof and chill out there, so she made her way past everyone in the line and headed towards the nearest elevator. Unfortunately for her, Katsuki and Shoto both watched her as she left, both of them just watching her rear as she walked. She opened the door to the roof and was glad that nobody was there, since she only liked eating by herself or her friends or family. She ate her lunch quietly and peacefully before she heard the door to the rooftop open, and looked back. The second she did though, she immediately regretted it, since all she saw were two blushing perverts. Great, these two again. They still aren't even looking at my face, only my rear. 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗏 thought angrily, holding and shouting at them. Before she was with Izuku, she really didn't mind it too much because she just ignored the lectures and didn't think twice of them. Though now, since she met Izuku, she really doesn't want anyone other than Izuku to look at her body sizes. Can I help you too? 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 asked rather rudely, already tired of the two being near her. We couldn't find any place to sit, so we both headed up to the roof to eat lunch here instead of on the floor. Katsuki said, still not looking away from her rear. Don't you two have a little friend group? I saw them, they were all at the table in the left corner. Why didn't you sit with them? 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 asked while turning and frowning at the two trying to sit near her. They didn't let us sit with them, and you make it sound as if though you hate us? Shoto said while trying to show a handsome smirk, which only made him look dumb in 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏's eyes. He was also just looking at her chest instead of her face, which annoyed her even more. That's because I do hate you both, along with Izumi Yagi and your sisters. You bullied my boyfriend until he was forced to run away from it all, and you know this, so why try and hide it? 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 said while sneering at the two, getting them to flinch back. That's not true. Me and Katsuki never hurt Izuku, he was like a brother to us. We only said mean things to him in order to stop someone without a quirk from becoming a hero. Shoto lied to 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏, getting her to somehow hate both of them even more. You just lied directly to me. Izuku told me and showed me the scars that all of you gave him, and he said that you two and his sister were usually the ones who instigated it. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 said, glaring at them in hatred. Okay, maybe so, but you can't fault us for trying to convince Izuku to not become a hero. Katsuki said, thinking he was smart. You two are disgusting. Just because somebody doesn't have a quirk doesn't mean they can't become a hero. The fact that you two even somewhat support or believe in that idea makes me sick. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 said before activating her quirk to fly and just eat her food while in the air away from them. She flew up a good 35 meters before levitating and eating her food without worrying about hearing those two. God damn it, this may take a while to get in bed with her. Shoto said while looking blankly at 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 in the air. It's fine, I'll just fly up there and talk to her. She'll be in my bed by the end of the day. Katsuki said before using explosion to fly himself up to her level. I know that we may have lied, but give us a shot. I know for a fact that I can impress you. Katsuki asked while giving a confident smirk, one that 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 instantly hated. What are you talking about? There's no way in hell that a pathetic, weak, idiotic bully that lied to me can even come close to being friends with me. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 said while glaring at Katsuki, who smirked even more. What about as a boyfriend? Katsuki said confidently. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 though was downright. She slammed her fork into her lunch tray before using her quirk to knock Katsuki off balance with a quick blast of energy. She took satisfaction as he fell, only to be disappointed when Shoto used ice to catch Katsuki before he hit the ground. What the hell is your problem? All we're trying to do is be nice and talk with you. Shoto yelled before 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 shot an energy spiral at him. The force of the spiral sent him barreling into the railing, leaving quite a noticeable dent in it. What is my problem? How dare you try and act innocent? You two come over to me, trying to stalk me and become your girlfriend, for what? So you can break Izuku's heart. So you can get an easy lay. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 asked, getting Katsuki and the now standing Shoto to flinch and cringe. When she said it out loud, it wasn't very heroic. I'm Izuku Shimura's girlfriend and his future wife. I'm not some bimbo or some slot that will F anything that moves. I'm someone who is loyal and I'm never going to cheat on Izuku. He's been nothing but kind and supportive of me, and he treats me like an actual human being. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 shouted at them. The two of them didn't back down though. But we're better than Izuku. I'm going to be the next #1 hero, and I'll have millions of dollars. My quirk is also way cooler than any of Izuku's. Katsuki said arrogantly, hoping that would deter 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏. Izuku will become the next #1 hero. He's taken down more criminals in 3 weeks than some heroes do in their entire life. Not only that, but Izuku has a lot of money, he'll be a trillionaire in the next year. Also, your quirk is pretty simple, all it is explosions. Nothing to really write home about when compared to a quirk that can copy thousands of quirks. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 debunked everything Katsuki had said, without even blinking. What about me though? I've got 2 quirks put into one. Not only that, but my dad is 𝗫𝗏𝗏, so I can support and take care of you for the rest of your life. Shoto said while getting 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 to laugh at him, only stopping after 20 seconds to explain. the same endeavor that Izuku beat without even sweating. Besides that, Izuku has more than 20 quirks, 10 times more than you. Also, Izuku can support and take care of me much more than the both of you combined. Admit it, Izuku is thousands of times better than both of you. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗪 said, getting both Shoto and Katsuki to get angry and slightly, we are better than that useless nerd. It took him 6 years to get his quirk, and he still is weaker than me. I could beat him with my eyes closed. Katsuki yelled while popping explosions in his palm, trying to intimidate her. I'm much stronger than Izuku. Him beating my father means nothing. I was created to surpass both him and All Might, so the son of a villain like Izuku couldn't even come close to me. Shoto yelled while activating both his fire and ice side. Before 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗪 could yell at them, a massive amount of pressure was exerted on the two boys as they folded and got onto their hands and knees. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗪 looked at them confused for a second before looking around and spotting Izuku in the air glaring at Katsuki and Shoto. He levitated down to the roof before coming towards 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗪 and pulling her into a passionate kiss. After they held it for a second, Katsuki and Shoto stopped feeling the pressure on them and tried to stand up, only succeeding with wobbly legs. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗪, I wanted to stop by to visit for lunch and I heard you talking. Are you okay? Izuku asked, not even paying attention to the two wobbly-legged boys. Yeah, I'm fine. Those two just got on my nerves and insulted you, so I kinda went off on them. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗪 said sweetly while smiling. I see. Izuku said, turning to glare at them again. He quickly stopped though once he remembered something 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗪 said. So, you're my future wife? Izuku asked while smiling, as 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗪 was confused at first before she went into an atomic blush, remembering she shouted that out. I was in the moment, but yes. I'm your future wife. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗪 blurred out, getting Izuku to freeze and process that big of information. His brain froze trying to swallow that, but after it was understood, Izuku immediately teleported her back to the dorms and threw her on his bed. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗪 was disgruntled before she was pushed down by Izuku pressing his now exposed chest on her body. Blushing from his muscular frame being on her, it became even more embarrassing when Izuku kissed her neck, giving her a hickey. From the kiss, she was surprised even more when Izuku tore off her uniform, leaving her even more exposed and more blushing. Wait a second. I want it, but this is moving too fast. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗪 said while pushing back at his chest. That's fine by me. I'm rewarding you with my live and I won't have section. Izuku said as he groped her breast, inviting another from 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗪, which came immediately. They just had an extreme makeout session, nothing SXL other than 𝗎𝗪𝗙𝗄 and hickeys on both of their bodies. Next day, 8 a.m., where were you two yesterday? Iida asked the embarrassed faces of Izuku and 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗪. Eri was behind them, though she was half asleep and less conscious than normal. Izuku let out as he was trying to avoid looking at Iida's eyes. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗪 was blushing scarlet while looking at the ground, finding the floor more interesting than the question. The couple and little sister were each dressed in their pajamas and were making their way down to the kitchen to make some breakfast. Luckily, very few people in the class was actually up, only Iida, Momo, Kirishima, and Ojiro were awake, though Kirishima and Ojiro were currently doing a morning workout. As your class president, I hope that you aren't doing anything indecent that could interfere with your future as heroes. Iida said sternly while doing his robotic chopping movements with his hand. Don't worry, it was nothing SXL or anything, we just had a makeout session and lost track of time. Izuku said after covering Eri's ears. Yeah, nothing of that sort, besides, I'm ahead in all my classes and hero work, and Izuku has this week off, so we're fine. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗪 said after Izuku finished. Well, that's good. I have no problem with you two being NTMT, just be responsible about it. Iida said while smiling. Izuku then picked up Eri and put her on his back before going into the kitchen and whipping up some waffles. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗪 sat at one of the tables and watched the adorable sight of Eri riding on Izuku as he cooked, with every now and then, Eri would play with and grab at his hair. After he made waffles, he sat Eri down next to him and sat next to 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗪 before passing the delicious food out. The group of three then dug into the food while talking and conversing about some things. This continued for 2 minutes before Izumi Yagi and her group of friends came down from the elevator. Katsuki and Shoto were nursing their backs, as ever since 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 fought them on the roof, their backs had been hurting from them being knocked down by her quirk. The second the group saw 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏, they immediately scowled at her. Katsuki and Shoto both told their friends and 𝗵𝗃𝗃 about what happened on the roof. Although they wanted to get her in trouble, she wasn't anywhere to be seen, and they had video evidence on the cameras on the roof. Katsumi and Shoka were particularly angry with 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 claiming that she was Izuku's future wife. Just thinking of Izuku with her made them both feel sick. Katsuki and Shoto were still intent on having 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 cheat on Izuku, but their pride and confidence was damaged now, getting both of them to be notably angry. "Hey, did you make food for us?" Izumi asked after walking to their table, though she was glaring at both 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 and especially Eri. "No, make your own food," Izuku said without even looking at her. "That's a little harsh, brother. You made these two strangers food but you didn't cook for your family," Shoto said while smirking at 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 who just glared at him. "These two are my family, you are the strangers. Breakfast food is in the pantry," Izuku said again, not looking at them. "We are your family. Quit playing hard to get and just come home to us," Katsumi said while trying to push her melons up. "I am with my family, leave me and my family alone and go bother someone else," Izuku said, finally looking at Katsumi and glaring at her, getting her to flinch. Eri meanwhile just watched as the meanies tried to insult her big brother and her big sister. Eri didn't like them at all, since they were making her big brother agitated and her big sister was glaring at the two men of the group. "Izuku, can you at least talk with us at school today?" Shoka asked, trying to look away from 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏. "No, I'll be busy with hero work," Izuku replied. "But you shouldn't be a hero in the first place anyway. You should have been a normal UA student like the rest of us," Shoka said back. "I'm not normal anyways, I'm the son of a villain, at least that's how Shoto put it. I don't care about any of you, and you're also ruining my breakfast," Izuku said harshly. Izumi, Katsumi and Shoka looked at Shoto in shock for a second as he sweated and stepped back. Katsuki also looked away. "Guess your two brothers didn't tell the full story. That 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃 also called my boyfriend a useless nerd, but since you all agree with them, I guess I shouldn't bother telling you that," 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 spoke up with a scowl. Katsuki and Shoto likely left out some important details to make themselves seem more innocent. Izuku explained what happened with both the boys now having guilty looks on their faces. "Some family you guys are, from what little knowledge I have on normal families, family members don't think of their family as weaker or below them normally," Izuku replied while glaring directly at the two of them. "Come on, brother, we didn't mean anything by that. We were talking without thinking." Shoto tried defending himself and Katsuki. "The fact that you said it without thinking means that you truly feel that way about me. Even then, I know for a fact that brothers don't try to get their brother's girlfriend to cheat on them," Izuku said while glaring mostly at Katsuki, since he came up with the idea. "But she doesn't love you like we do. Can't you see that she's just using you for your power and money? We've loved you since before you were even a hero, since before you even got a quirk," Katsumi yelled. Luckily for Izuku though, this was the moment where most of the class finally entered the main lobby. "You don't even know her personally. Hell, I bet you don't even know how she got with me in the first place. As for you loving me, I don't want to experience that sick and twisted love ever again. You can have fun finding someone else to torture and hurt," Izuku said, being tired of hiding it from everyone. "But we were just trying to protect you. At the time, if you kept on trying to be a hero without a quirk, then you'd die trying to be a hero. Besides that, it turned out fine. You're a pro hero now, just like you wanted to be. Now all we need to do is become heroes too, then the promise we each made when we were kids would be fulfilled," Izumi said while almost crying. "Don't make me GG. Just the thought of me even working with any of you makes my stomach turn. As for protecting me, I had hundreds of scars littering my body every single day, third-degree burns on most of my body, and major BLD loss from most of the beatings you gave me. Quite honestly, it's a mystery to even me as to why I'm alive right now. It's almost as if you were actively trying to kill me to loosely prove that someone quirkless would die as a hero. The only thing you really proved was the fact that I should have never even trusted you in the first place," Izuku said, almost cringing at the memories. "We just gave you tough love." It's tough love? Izuku interrupted Katsumi. Tough love is when you mildly hurt someone to better them in the long run. Tough love is when you slightly hurt someone to help them out, even if it is unfair. Tough love is not torturing your crush into almost committing suicide. Isn't that right, Katsuki? What was it you said? Oh yeah, if you want to be a hero so badly, why not just take a swan dive off a roof and pray for a quirk in your next life? I bet you left that little detail out from your story. Izuku said angrily as 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗪's eyes widened, while Eri was saddened and a little bit scared for her brother. Izumi, Katsumi, Shoka, and Shoto all looked at Katsuki in shock, as the man in question looked down. The rest of 1A was also shocked and was looking at Katsuki with an angry and shocked expression, having walked in on the conversation. What I said that day I've regretted since I came to my senses. Look, we've all repented and been punished for our actions since you left us, but don't you think it's time for you to finally come home? If you just came back with us, then you'd realize how much we've changed and how much we actually care for you. Katsuki said, trying to defend himself. If what care you showed me before wasn't genuine, then I don't want to know what your actual affection and care looks like. I don't care about you or what your group does, just leave me out of it. Izuku said before turning back to his breakfast. 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗪 was hesitant, since she didn't know about Katsuki's suicide comment, and she was worried that Izuku might have actually taken it seriously. Before any of Izumi's friends could respond, a loud cough made the rest of Class 1A noticed. Izuku, 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗪, and Eri just went on to finish breakfast before Izuku stood up and tried to walk out, though he was blocked by Kirishima and Mina, who both looked at him with worried faces. Relax, I never once actually considered it. My life was hell, but I still held on to hope of having a better future. Izuku said as Kirishima released a sigh of relief, along with Mina, Eri, and 𝗵𝗲𝗪. Still, I'm just glad that you're all right, Kirishima said with Mina nodding. Thanks. Anyway, I'll be gone for the next 6 days dealing with cases and hero work. Good luck with your schoolwork and your training, Izuku said before teleporting himself and Eri to Eri's school. 𝗵𝗲𝗪 said goodbye after glaring at Izumi and her friends before walking out the front door. Class 1A stared at Izumi and her friends in hatred and discomfort, as the group slowly started realizing the full effect that they had on Izuku. With Izuku and Eri, random elementary school, have fun and listen to your teachers. Remember, if you start having a panic attack, just get away from people and focus on your breathing. I'll come pick you right up in a flash, Izuku said while hugging Eri, who nodded with a smile. She turned around before running into the school with a bunch of other kids calling out to her as she walked. Izuku smiled at the sight. If he had met Mina and Kirishima at Eri's age, perhaps he could have felt like he belonged. Maybe he would actually still be his hero nerd old self. He shook those thoughts from his head, especially given what he needed to do now. He could dwell on the past later. Right now though, he needed to get leads on AFO as fast as possible. Hawks sent out a lot of his feathers all across Japan, but he didn't have any leads so far. Izuku needed to connect himself with the underground if he wanted to find out where to look. With 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗪 at UA, so Izuku's old friends, Bakugou Katsuki and Todoroki Shoto, decided to try and hit on you to steal you away from Izuku. Also, Izuku will go back to his old family. Additionally, they want Izuku to marry their sisters, so they think that if you cheat on him, then he'll just go running back to them. Do I understand so far? Mirio said as 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗪 nodded. The big three were currently at the gate to UA while talking. Mirio and Tamaki immediately picked up on the signs of 𝗵𝗲𝗪's discomfort and had her tell them what's wrong. Well, that's a bit of wild leap in logic. First of all, why would they think that Izuku would ever love them if they bullied him and practically abused him, not to mention him stating that he hates them even now? Additionally, why would they think that you'd cheat on Izuku in the first place? Mirio asked with a raised eyebrow. They think Izuku doesn't mean that, and that he's just playing hard to get. They think I'd cheat on him because the boys of the group think that I'm just some slut with a good body and that I'd be a good lay. 𝗵𝗲𝗪 said with a huge scowl on her face. That's some next-level stupidity right there, Mirio said with a slightly shocked expression. I don't know, shouldn't we tell Nizu about this? If he knows about the bullying, he will get evidence of it, and then Izuku's tormentors will be kicked from the school, Maybe even blacklisted from other hero schools if we're lucky. Tamaki said, joining in on the conversation. I've tried telling Izu that, but he won't budge. He says that he wants them to watch as he becomes a hero all on his own, without any of their help or influence. I know that it's the right choice to make, but honestly, I agree with Izu. I hate them for what they've done, and I bet that you both do too, but it's Izu's choice on what we should do with them. Besides, they really can't do anything to us, unless they want to destroy even the smallest chance of redemption. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 explained. Mirio snickered though, getting 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 to look at him confused. I'm sorry, it's just that, normally you would have told Nizu about that on the spot. So the fact that Izuku managed to convince you to do otherwise says a lot about him. Even a blind person can see that he can keep you in check. Mirio said with a smile, with 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 blushing. 𝗬𝗏. I have to keep Izu in check too. I always have to make sure he goes to sleep without any issues, and I always stop him from overworking himself. He always hides his emotions from people, so I have to be there for him to actually show emotion. Besides all of that, me and Eri make sure that he can smile whenever he comes home. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 says while blushing. Mirio and Tamaki simply smile at her before they make their way towards the school, intent on finishing their classes. With Izuku, so let me get this all cleared up. You want me to train my classmates that I approve of to do better in the sports festival, and in return, you'll act as Eri's mentor. This right? Izuku asked Nizu. The small principal nodded with a smile as he moved the knight of the chessboard in front of him. Nizu and Izuku were having another one of their chess games to better improve their relationship, though the two were already good friends. With Izuku dealing with the financial costs of most of the school, Nizu could finally relax and focus on his technological projects and gaining even more contacts and contracts within the government. There were two main reasons why UA was still standing today given their reckless testing and their unique privileges towards teachers. Recovery Girl because she can heal most students' injuries and turn the lethal entrance exam into a non-deadly one, and Nizu because the government values him beyond just about any other pro, even All Might. Now Nizu could enjoy even more of his leisurely hobbies, such as playing chess with a brilliant mind, or inventing new support items, and even watching more shows. The stress that Izuku managed to relieve from the old and intelligent rat's mind and body made Nizu really appreciate Izuku. Yes, indeed. Think of this as another sign of my faith in you and your faith in me. Like you, I have many educational qualities, and unlike you, I've actually taught on all forms of subjects to students of all ages. I have 12 PhDs, most people would kill for me to teach their children, and I'll do it for free, so long as you help with people around you. Nizu explained. Fine. I'll train Kirishima Ijiro, Ashido Mina, Hagakure Toru, Yaoyorozu Momo, and Kaminari Denki. Izuku said with Nizu nodding in satisfaction at his answer and choices. Aizawa is leaving the class to train on their own today. Go to 1A and take them now to train them privately in ground beta. Nizu said, with Izuku nodding before teleporting. Class 1A, right now, train your quirks on your own today in ground alpha. Aizawa said before going into his sleeping bag and falling asleep. Class 1A collectively sweat-dropped at their unconscious sensei before getting up and heading to the door. When Kirishima opened the door though, a crowd of students was in the way. So, this is the great Class 1, the same one that survived against all those villains at the USJ. U1A scum better not get cocky because you were in the spotlight for a day. Class 1B is going to crush all of you in this competition. A random student with blonde hair and steel gray eyes shouted out with a creepy smile. Oh, you must be from 1B. Look, we aren't cocky about that, we were just trying to defend ourselves and our friends. Besides, we shouldn't try and crush each other when we're students of UA. Kirishima said with a smile. Although the blonde student didn't seem affected by Kirishima's words, a steel-haired student came in the front of the crowd with tears in his eyes. I thought you would all be unmanly, but that was the most manliest thing I ever heard. The boy said while crying and wiping his eyes. Move out of my way. Another voice said, and some of Class 1B moved out of the way for a purple-eyed and wild purple-haired student to come face-to-face with Class 1A. I'm going to make this simple. I aimed for the hero course and couldn't get in, so I had to resort to going to the general course. However, if I do well in the sports festival, then I may be put into the hero course off of recommendation from teachers. Hero course students, watch your backs, because I'm going for you in this festival. The purple-haired kid explained. Look man, I hope you get into the hero course, but you shouldn't make threats to people just like you. Kirishima said with a small smile that made the purple-haired kid narrow his eyes. What's your name? The purple-haired kid asked. Eijiro Kirishima. I'm Hitoshi Shinso. Watch yourself, I'm coming straight for you. The now-named Hitoshi said before wandering off. What's going on here? A new voice said, and everyone turned to see Izuku walking towards them in his hero outfit. Oh, Izubro. The other hero class, 1B, came to see us. There was also this general studies student named Hitoshi that came to see us. They're here to challenge us to a fight in the sports festival, but it looks like they aren't trying to be mean or anything. Kirishima explained. Regardless of that, you shouldn't be near my class right now, you have to be in your next PRD right now. Izuku said. Your class. Are you a student of 1A? The blonde-haired boy with a creepy smile asked. I may have my hero license, but I earned it a different way than most heroes, so I decided to go to UA to prove that I deserve my hero title, and I ended up in 1A. Izuku explained. Of course 1A of all classes would get a pro hero in their roster. The principal must have felt sorry for your class and put you there to make 1A more powerful and less of an embarrassment. The blonde-haired boy yelled while pointing at Izuku. Izuku just looked at him annoyed while using fighting spirit to see his strength. And why is he here? His strength is the size of a pebble, it's barely even a flame, more like a small wisp of heat. How the hell did a weakling get into the hero course? Izuku thought to himself. It was almost laughable that someone that weak was calling 1A trash. Actually, it wasn't laughable, it was downright atrocious. If you have a problem with me being in class 1A, then you'd need to take up with Principal Nizu. Also, you're far too weak to be making such claims, with you being the weakest person in the room, even weaker than Mineta, the weakest of 1A. Izuku said and insulted with a straight face and no emotion, off the blonde-haired boy. He angrily marched over to him and touched his body, with Izuku feeling him try to copy his quirk. Izuku responded by simply disabling his quirk completely. Let's see you call me weak when I burn you with your own flames. The blonde kid said before holding out his hand in front of him. The kid focused and tried to summon some flames, but he couldn't. Izuku got a really devious idea, and started smirking at the confused and slightly afraid. Blonde kid. That's a nice quirk you have there, I think I may keep it for myself for the rest of time. Have fun being in UA without a quirk. Izuku said with his hair shadowing his radioactive green eyes, as his smirk almost split his face. All of Class 1B looked at Izuku with a slightly fearful expression, while the blonde kid looked at Izuku with a terrified look. What did you do to my quirks? The blonde kid yelled in question as he tried again and again to summon flames. I thought that was obvious. Before you copied my quirk, I simply stole your quirk the second you touched me. Also, I'm not obligated to give it back to you either, especially since you just tried to attack me in a hallway due to an insult. Izuku explained as he showed off the blonde's quirk by teleporting and touching Momo's shoulder. He made sure to only copy her quirk temporarily before destroying it after he had his fun. He then made himself an iron bar from his chest and twirled it around. To give it back. Give it back right now. The blonde kid yelled while getting on his knees and begging Izuku. Izuku just smirked evilly at him. He started cackling in a textbook sinister tone too, before a cough interrupted him. Izuku enough, Aizawa said, getting everyone to look at him and Izuku to sigh. Oh well, I wanted to have fun more. Izuku said while putting his hand on the blonde kid's head and re-enabling his quirk. If you ever talk high and mighty again, I'll take your quirk away for a whole week. Understand? Izuku threatened while holding the kid's head in place. Yes, I swear, it won't happen again, the blonde kid yelled. Izuku sighed before turning to the rest of the audience. That goes for all of you too. If any of you act superior or put people down from here on out, I'll take your quirks away for a week. Izuku said, getting all of Class 1B to back away in fear. Also, 1A also looked at Izuku in confusion, since he didn't normally threaten people. Izuku then turned to Momo with an apologetic look. Sorry for copying your quirk without your permission, but I just destroyed the version of it I copied. It won't happen again, and I just did it to mess with the butt. Izuku explained. No problem, just don't do it again. Mono replied while waving it off. Izuku smiled and nodded before walking to Ijiro, Mina, Toru, and Kaminari. If it's okay with you four, I'd like to train the four of you particularly for the sports festival. Izuku said. He then turned to the rest of the class before speaking. Momo, I will train you two if you wish. The rest of you, work on covering for your weaknesses and find your strengths in your quirk better. Izuku said. Izuku then teleported to Training Ground Alpha, waiting for his 5 students to show up. A few minutes later, the boys' locker room. Bro, I can't believe that Izubro is going to be training us. I'm so pumped for what he'll show us. Ijiro said excitedly. He recognized that Izuku was the best teacher at UA, and that he was undoubtedly the strongest. He doubted All Might would stand much of a chance against him. Yeah, I just want to work on getting rid of my drawback, Kaminari said. His drawback was by far the worst of his classmates, especially considering it was the most detrimental. Hey, shitty hair. A new voice shouted, which was Katsuki and Shoto walking over to them, both of them with scowls on their faces. Alright you two shitheads. Why the F would Izuku train you and not us? What the hell did you do that somehow made him want to be all friendly with you? Katsuki raged while he popped explosions in his hands. And why the hell would he not train us? We're his actual family, so why would he train you two, who aren't even his friends? Shoto said angrily. Everyone in the locker room was staring at them, and glaring at Shoto and Katsuki. Kirishima was about to reply, but Kaminari beat him to it. Because we didn't tell him to kill himself? Kaminari said, uncharacteristically serious. His blunt comment silenced both Shoto and Katsuki, who just had their mouths open, trying to think of a reply. Look, I'm not going to tell on you, because I know that Nizu already knows about this, given how Izuku is. But you two need to back off from the rest of 1A, and especially from Izuku. Kaminari said, once again surprising the boys with how serious he was. I know that Izuku is more worthy of being a hero given what he's been through. That fake scenario he gave to us on the first day, it was his actual backstory. You two, along with your sisters and Izumi, you don't deserve to even be here. Why are you 5 even trying to redeem yourselves? There's no chance you can. Kaminari said harshly, getting the two to cringe and back up slightly. I'm done pretending to be friendly to you. Don't talk to me and don't talk to anyone else here. Kaminari said before walking out the door, Kirishima following after him. Kaminari looked down towards the floor, looking at his hands, bouncing with yellow electricity, before closing his eyes. With his quirk and his brain, he'll be much better off as some half-washed electrician. He's just not fit for hero work with his quirk. He's useless at even the simplest of tasks. Kaminari opened his eyes again, his mouth shaking slightly, staring at his fingers. Izuku, you're much stronger than me body and mind. I just wish I was like you. Kaminari thought sadly. Girls' locker room, same time, why the hell would Zuzu train you 3? We're his future wives and Izumi is his sister, so why the hell were you 3 chosen? Shoka yelled and asked towards the annoyed girls. Probably because we didn't torture him for years, all because of him being quirkless? Besides, I doubt that Izuku will ever consider you two his wives when he has Nijire-chan. And Yagi, you aren't his sister, Eri is. Mina said hotly to the now even angrier girls. We are his future wives, we have an arranged marriage with him, so that blueberry slot of a 3rd year will have to go find someone else's man to steal. Me and Shoka are hotter than her anyways, and we're both marrying him, who wouldn't want to be married to 2 women. Beside, that little brat isn't even related to him by BLD, Izuku only pretends to be her big brother because he feels bad for her. Katsumi yelled. Oh please, Nijire is cuter and more appealing than both of you combined. Plus, Izuku only cares about a girl's personality, not their body. And as for Eri, Izuku considers her to be his sister more than he'll ever consider you. BLD has nothing to do with being a sibling to someone. Mina yelled. Just tell us what you said to him that made him train you. We just want to get closer to him to show him that we love him. After that, we know that he'll see our love as genuine, and he'll forget all about those two. Izumi shouted at Mina. Enough. If you three want to get Izuku's love, then earn it on your own. Don't bother us in this bullshit drama. Momo shouted at them before walking out the door, with Mina and Toru following close behind. Honestly, after they say those things to somewhat like Midori, they think that they have the right to train with him. Mina shouted, glaring at the ground and stomping towards training ground Alpha. Toru also seemed to be angry, looking down at her invisible arms, letting memories flash by her mind. She won't be able to save herself, much less anyone else. She's only good for stealth, nothing more. She's going to be a useless and forgotten hero by the time she's even graduated, if she even graduates. I want to prove them wrong no matter what. Toru thought, remembering exactly what Izuku went through, having guessed his fake scenario from the first day actually happened to him. With Izuku, training ground Alpha, do they really think they can threaten other students? Now it's not just me, it's also the rest of the students. Izuku said to himself, irritated that the pair of twins and his former sister would actually threaten other people after they exposed themselves to the class earlier today. They threatened other students? Izuku turned and smiled at 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗪, before nodding. They threatened a few people I'd be tutoring today. They all thought that they did something for me, or said something to me, and I just suddenly decided to train them. Izuku explained. 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗪 just pouted before wrapping her arms around Izuku and putting the back of his head into her chest. They can't keep being like this. I know you don't want them to be kicked from UA, but can you at least get them punished? 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗪 asked. It seemed that the group never really got proper punishments for their former and current actions, and it was really getting on her nerves. I'll talk with Nizu about something, hopefully something along the lines of 3 hours of community service every day after school. That'll mean that Yumi and Eri can hang out without trouble at all. Izuku said while smiling. He honestly wanted the group to be punished too, but he thought that community service for 3 hours after school would also force them to leave him alone. You just want to be left alone by them, and have me and Eri for yourself? 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗪 said blankly, with Izuku nodding at her words. You might want to stop pushing my face in your chest, the group is coming here. Izuku said. 𝗵𝗲𝗪 stopped hugging him for a second, before hugging his arm into her chest. Pretty soon, the group of Kaminari, Ijiro, Momo, Toru, and Mina all arrived in their hero costumes, ready to begin training. First things first, let me start by apologizing. My decision to train you all has caused my former friends turned bullies to annoy you. I'll inform Nizu of this at once, and they'll get punishment. Secondly, I want you all to tell me the basic functions of your quirks, their weaknesses, and their strengths. Izuku started off, telling them that they wouldn't need to worry about the 5 bullies. Ijiro, you will start? Izuku said. Ijiro nodded before talking. My quirk is called Harden, and it allows me to turn my muscles into a very hard material that boosts both my physical strength as well as my defenses. I'm very good at using it to tank attacks, before countering them with a solid punch. I don't have any ranged attack, and I can't harden my entire body at the same time, and to boot, my quirk relies on my stamina as well. Ijiro explained, with Izuku pulling out a notebook before writing all of the quirk's details in there, and possible upgrades to that quirk. Izuku then looked toward Kaminari. My quirk is called Electrification, and it allows me to send out and generate electricity and cover my body in it, and I can also absorb electricity. It's got pretty good power, with me being able to generate and release up to 10 million volts of power, but if I go above my limit, I'll short-circuit my brain, and I'll essentially lose a good portion of my cognitive functions, making me stupid for a while. Additionally, I can't control my electricity after it's released from my body. Kaminari said. Izuku once again wrote down the quirk, and its possible evolutions. He then looked to Mina. My quirk is called Acid. It lets me produce a corrosive liquid from my body. I can control its viscosity and solubility, along with how it is released from my body. I have a limit of how much acid I can produce, since my body has built up a strong resistance toward it, and I can't control the acid much after it's left my body. Mina listed off, with Izuku keeping up with the info. Toru was next. My quirk is called invisibility. Pretty obvious what it does, but my body naturally refracts light around my body to make it invisible, and I can't turn it off. I'm pretty sneaky, but honestly it doesn't have any power or defense. Toru said. Next, it was Momo's turn. My quirk is called creation, and it allows me to transform the lipids in my body into matter. I can create any non-living material, so long as I have memorized its chemical and atomic structure. I need to have time to fully use it. I have a set limit on how much lipids my body can take, and it has really good utility. Momo said. Izuku then wrote down her info before closing his notebook. Okay then, before we go any further, would any of you like for me to upgrade your quirks, and/or give you another quirk? Izuku asked, getting the group of 5 to look at him in shock. What?